Chapter 46-22. Yi Qingluo's expression was slightly chilly as her eyes stared at Long Yunjian without blinking. The words she spoke were directed at Grand Elder. Now the Palace of Darkness is only left with such despicable methods. Aren't you the clearest about the Palace of Darkness's despicableness? Grand Elder wasn't infuriated. Instead he gave a cold laugh proudly. When you see your so-called brother standing on the opposite side of you, how will you choose? Will you choose to kill the other party for your own sake? Or to fulfill your sentimental and righteous wish, to rather get yourself injured than to hurt him? This elder is really looking forward to this good show. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. A pair of treacherous chilly eyes stared straight at Yi Qingluo, as though he was staring at his prey, just as he was prepared to go up and capture her. Yi Qingluo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. She took a deep breath to calm her own emotions as her eyes gazed deeply at Long Yunjian. Ajan. She opened her mouth as her voice was slightly low. Since when did it start? Her question made one unable to make head or tail of it. This made Yan Xiaoyi, who was gritting her teeth in anger from Grand Elder's words, look towards Yi Qingluo in a daze. What did she mean by since when did it start? Wasn't the current Long Yunjian already controlled? How could he possibly answer Yi Qingluo's question? Just as everyone was filled with suspicions, they heard that expressionless, extremely cold man slowly opened his mouth. It was that day. Why didn't you come look for us? Yi Qingluo smiled when she heard that as she asked again. Long Yunjian's eyes moved slightly, like the ripples on the lake. Now I'm here to look for you. Looking for me, that means. Right from the start, your target is me. Yi Qingluo laughed softly as her brows were curved. But if one listened carefully, however, one could hear the bitterness and helplessness in her laughter. Long Yunjian went silent, not knowing how to reply. Yan Xiaoyi, who was by the side, couldn't hold it in any longer when she heard their conversation. What do you mean? Qingluo, what do you mean by that? Isn't Commander being controlled? Why? Listening to their conversation. But it seemed like the leader wasn't being controlled at all. Yi Qingluo took a look at Yan Xiaoyi as she pondered for a moment, and wanted to reply. However, Long Yunjian spoke first. I'm not being controlled. That pair of azure eyes looked at Yan Xiaoyi. It was as if he was looking at a stranger, cold and emotionless. I have been a member of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness since the beginning. This sentence exploded in the ears of Yan Xiaoyi and the rest with a boom. They stood there in a daze. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. Were they dreaming? How could their most respected and amiable class monitor, who had grown up with them, be someone from the Palace of Darkness? At that time, how could there be a Tengu Palace? Qingluo, didn't you say that the group leader is being controlled? Why did he say that? Did the people from Dark Shadow Palace force him to say that? Yan Xiaoyi couldn't believe her own ears as she shook her head and anxiously sought confirmation from Yi Qingluo. This news, if those people in the world group were to find out about it, probably everyone would break down. Looking at Yan Xiaoyi's hopeful and flustered eyes, Yi Qingluo's eyes dimmed slightly. She lowered her eyes as she replied calmly. Yes, he is indeed being controlled, but he's conscious now. Latest update, no pop-up window please. Chapter 46-23. W. What do you mean? Yan Xiaoyi felt that her brain was unable to wrap itself around it. His eyes are very clear and very calm. There's no struggle, no unwillingness. Yi Qingluo's tone turned solemn. Clear meant that his consciousness was clear, and not that empty and soulless state after being controlled. Calm meant that under the condition that he was conscious, he accepted himself, standing on the opposite side of them. No struggle, no unwillingness, meant that there was nothing controlling his thoughts or willpower. Long Yunjian was willing to stand on the opposite side of them. Group leader he. Yan Xiaoyi's heart tightened as her face turned pale. She suddenly looked towards Long Yunjian, opening her mouth. It wasn't to berate, not to question, but... Group leader, do you have something that you can't tell us? Did the secluded palace threaten you? Tell us. Tell Qingluo. Didn't we say that no matter what happens, we will stand by each other's side unconditionally, to face all the problems together? No matter if it was Yan Xiaoyi or Qiao Jin, Or those people who were still in Nirvana realm or Earth realm, the world group. After hearing that Long Yunjan was conscious and was willing to be their enemy, they all believed that Long Yunjan was absolutely not doing it on purpose. Even if he was now willingly standing on the opposite side of them, that was because he had his own difficulties. They believed in their group leader. No. Long Yunjan replied calmly between his brows, was calm and apathetic. I just recovered my memories. Recovered? Memories? Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin exchanged glances as their expressions sunk. Yes, Long Yunjan had lost his past memories. Long Yunjan didn't have any memories before he joined the devil class in Nirvana realm. But now he said he had regained his memories. Regained? Memories related to the secluded palace? I'm from the secluded palace. My motive in devil class is to wait for your appearance. Long Yunjan looked at Yiqing Luo calmly. You are my target. Impossible. Yan Xiaoyi couldn't believe that the class monitor, group leader who had fought alongside her, was someone who had been scheming right from the start. How are you so sure that Qing Luo will definitely enter Heavenly Academy? How can you be sure that Qing Luo will enter the devil class? Xiaoyi, don't say any more. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath. The expression on her face didn't have much emotion. It was as if she had already guessed all of this. Ever since she saw Long Yunjan again, Yiqing Luo had already deduced most of the matters in her mind. He doesn't need to be sure, because there's the Gloomy Palace. The mastermind of Gloomy Palace had planned everything. The Palace of Darkness had confirmed that she would enter the Heavenly Academy and join the Devil class. She was not surprised at all. I'm afraid that Ajan's memory loss is also the work of the Gloomy Palace. Yiqing Luo continued. If Ajan loses his memories, then he will be able to integrate into us and gain our trust, just like now. After that, he would find a suitable opportunity to let Long Yunjan recover his memories. It also allowed him to understand the mission that he had to complete. Yiqing Luo laughed softly as her eyes stared deeply at Long Yunjan. So, after you've recovered your memories, you've chosen the Palace of Darkness, intending to abandon this period of time, and everything that we've experienced. Long Yunjan's emotionless eyes flashed past a slight fluctuation. Very quickly, it disappeared in a fleeting moment. It was so fast that no one could catch it. The fastest update, no pop-up window to read. Chapter 46-24. But Yiqing Luo, who had been staring intently at Long Yunjan, caught it. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past a flash of understanding. She curled her lips slightly, as though she was smiling, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. On the contrary, it looked a little horrifying. No matter if you're from the secluded palace or not, or what kind of mission you're carrying, but... Yiqing Luo looked at Long Yunjan's blue eyes as she said word by word. You can't deny that you've once fought side by side with Devil Class and the World Group. Long Yunjan, are you sure you want to abandon everything? Long Yunjan's pupils contracted slightly. There wasn't any emotion on his expressionless face, but the hands which were hanging by his side slowly clenched into fists. This elder asked him to come out, not for you to reminisce about the past. Grand Elder originally put on a complacent look when he heard Yiqing Luo's questioning. No matter what Yiqing Luo asked, the more Yiqing Luo questioned, the angrier she got. To force Yiqing Luo into a rage was not a bad choice at all. But under Yiqing Luo's questioning, Long Yunjan didn't say a single word. This made Grand Elder's heart sunk. Was he trying to incite Long Yunjan's emotions? Naive, since he made Long Yunjan stand out to deal with Yiqing Luo. That was 100% certain that Long Yunjan would not be able to incite defection. He had no way to do so. Thinking of this, the Great Elder's lips twitched as he sneered. Yiqing Luo, don't waste your efforts, don't forget. 3 days ago he even stabbed his long sword into your body. Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold. Mentioning this point, Long Yunjan's pupils shrunk twice. There were slivers of faint light scuttling in his pupils. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk slightly as her pink lips pursed slightly. Her gaze was as cold as ice as she looked at Grand Elder. So what? Nothing. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. I only feel that your so-called brotherhood is really stupid and hilarious. He scoffed lightly. 3 days ago, the sword he stabbed into your body almost took your life, didn't it? If it wasn't for that ingrate, the palace master, who took advantage of the Lord's closed-door cultivation to save you, do you think you could have survived until now? When faced with someone who tried to kill you and nearly killed you in the past, you actually have extravagant hopes that he will change his mind. Are you a fool? After saying that, the great elder could not help but burst into laughter. His laughter was filled with mockery. What? Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin's expressions changed instantly as they looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. They knew that Long Yunjian had stabbed Yiqing Luo, but she had never thought that the injury would almost cost Yiqing Luo's life. I'm fine, don't listen to his nonsense. Yiqing Luo's gaze was still fixated on the changes in Long Yunjian's expression. She acutely saw Long Yunjian after hearing the words of the great elder just now. The expression on his face changed slightly. If she hadn't been staring at it, she probably wouldn't have noticed this subtle change. Nonsense. Grand Elder seemed as though he had heard a joke as he laughed out loudly. You know very well that this elder isn't talking nonsense. And to think that Palace Master did it for you, I'm afraid. He's going to be tortured by the Lord till he's no longer human. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped fiercely, as though there was an icy cold hand, tightly grabbing onto her heart, squeezing it hard, making her feel as though she couldn't breathe properly. She couldn't maintain the calm expression on her face any longer. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-25. Even though she knew that Grand Elder's words were probably to disturb her heart, but she was still affected by Grand Elder's words. Gu Jingyuhe. Was it because he saved her, or was he discovered by the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness? Then, was he punished? When Gu Jingyu saved her, she had some guesses in her heart, based on her understanding of the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness. Everything that Gu Jingyu had done, the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness should know it like the back of their hand. Only the difference was, the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness didn't want Gu Jingyu to know that he actually knew everything. Perhaps at that time, Gu Jingyu himself was very clear about it. But he still chose to save her. Ha ha ha. What a good show. Grand Elder didn't hear Yiqing Luo's rebuttal and counterattack, so he knew clearly that his words had an effect on Yiqing Luo. Towards someone who hurt you, almost taking your life, painstakingly persuading her, talking about true feelings and loyalty, but ignoring the other person, the person who really saved you. Yiqing Luo. You're not that kind. Shut up. A furious berating was heard from the side. What followed was a tyrannical profound wave. Grand Elder's black robe shook. Looking as though it was effortless, he split that profound wave apart. His complacent and savage laughter stopped abruptly at this moment. A pair of long and cold eyes were suffused with a sinister cold glint as he looked towards the direction of the voice. Long Yunjian, you dare to make a move against me? I asked you to shut up. Long Yunjian's pair of pure blue eyes was like the ocean, setting off thousands of huge waves. Numerous waves were surging under his gaze. Evil intent overflowed. He held a long sword in his hand, giving out a clang-clang sound under his palm. You. Grand Elder's gaze took a look at that long sword. As though he was afraid of something, he retracted his gaze furiously. Long Yunjian, I can't be bothered to say any more. But let me give you a piece of advice. You're no longer the class monitor of Devil Class, nor some group leader of the World Group. Your identity is the Guardian of the Palace of Darkness. If you dare to betray the Lord, you know very well what the consequences will be. After the great elder finished speaking, he threw down his black robe heavily and leaped onto the eaves of a nearby house. With his hands behind his back, he looked as though he was only here to spectate and not participate in the battle. Long Yunjian did not speak. His entire body was surrounded by a vicious aura and dark force. Bit by bit, it eroded the surrounding air. Without the great elder sowing discord at the side, the atmosphere between the two of them became extremely gloomy. Ajan. The girl's voice was not as sweet as it used to be. It was cold and indifferent. Is what he said true? His voice grew softer and softer. It was as if he was afraid to hear the real answer. according to Long Yunjan's understanding of her. Long Yunjan knew what she meant. She was asking if Gu Jingyu's condition was real. Long Yunjan's thin lips moved slightly. He wanted to speak. However, his voice was a little bitter. His ice-cold heart was throbbing with pain at this moment. He would rather be in a controlled state right now, a puppet state. At least he didn't need to face Yiqing Luo. But unfortunately, he was very clear-headed. Very, very clear-headed. So clear that he was standing on the opposite side of Yiqing Luo, listening to Yiqing Luo's questions. His heart felt as though it was pierced by needles. But he was unable to turn back, and was unable to respond to Yiqing Luo's words. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-26. To answer Yiqing Luo? To answer. That would be to confirm the good show, which Grand Elder mentioned. A joke. After some time, Long Yunjan's hoarse voice rang. Yes. Just one word, as though it was filled with the endless suffering of the world. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Her eyes glowed faintly as it revealed some blood color. Ajan, what you said is. Does it mean that from the moment you stabbed the sword, you already knew? That sword was smeared with the profound Yin fragrance. Long Yunjan's gaze didn't change. Yes. Yiqing Luo suddenly laughed. That laughter was filled with deep sorrow and disappointment. The gaze which she looked at him was no longer the shock from earlier, but calmness without joy or sorrow. Ajan, I know. Your choice. Her voice was cold and apathetic. That kind of cold and detached attitude. It made Long Yunjan's pupils shrink bit by bit. His heart was in extreme pain. He wanted to speak, but the words which were at the tip of his mouth were kept back into his throat. There was already nothing more to say. Qing Luo. Qing Luo. Seeing Yiqing Luo's expression, Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi called out Yiqing Luo's name in a fluster. They stared intently at Long Yunjan, unable to believe that in the end, they and their group leader would walk to such a stage. That was their group leader. If it wasn't for Long Yunjan's appearance, they were afraid that when they were in devil class, they would really continue to fall. How would they be able to have such a colorful and glorious life now? Even if they saw it with their own eyes, they were unable to believe that their group leader would part ways with them. Yiqing Luo raised her hand, making an action to stop them from speaking. Following that, her expression was calm as she looked at Long Yunjan calmly. Her pink lips rose slightly, but it wasn't a smile arc. But I'm afraid Secluded Palace has miscalculated. Long Yunjan went into a slight blank. Yiqing Luo smiled again. You've guessed what I want to do, right? Long Yunjan's expression changed again. Yiqing Luo's gaze went past Long Yunjan and landed on Grand Elder. She revealed a smile that was as bright as a flower. Who told you that if you hand over Long Yunjan, I must fight him? Want to see us kill each other? It doesn't exist. If we can't beat you, can't we run? As soon as the girl's voice fell, deafening explosions suddenly erupted in the surroundings. A profound wave that shook the air rapidly spread in all directions. After the profound wave dispersed, in front of them, where was Yiqing Luo and the rest? F***CK. The great elder's face was ashen, and his facial features were so twisted that he couldn't help but curse. He quickly flew down from the eaves and scanned the surroundings. Where are they? Where is he? He ran away. Long Yunjan stood in place, motionless like a stone statue. Ran away. How could you let them get away? Did you intentionally let them escape? Grand Elder had never seen someone as shameless as Yiqing Luo. The fight hadn't even started, and he was already running away. How could such a large group of people escape in such a short period of time? Long Yunjan lifted his eyelids lightly, his blue eyes as calm as still water. Do you think I can stop a venerable sovereign? The great elder's expression was even more unsightly. He scolded loudly, but there was nothing he could do. He took large strides towards Ren Jianying and directly pulled her up. Trash. Meeting Yiqing Luo, that slut. All of you have become trash. Let's see how you explain to His Highness this time. Chapter 46-27. The instant Grand Elder turned around, He didn't notice that Long Yunjian slowly shifted his gaze towards a certain direction. Slowly, heaved a sigh of relief. He lowered his eyes as he congealed on the azure blue long sword in his hand. Luckily, he didn't need to make a move on her again. Luckily, he didn't really make a move. At this moment, Yi Qingluo and the rest were on the back of the magical beasts. Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian were sitting on Little Nine's back. Chi-Chi was carrying the rest of them. They stopped at a rather secluded area in the forest before Yi Qingluo got Little Nine to find a place to stop. Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi were both preoccupied. They had just leapt down from Chi-Chi's back as the two of them welcomed Yi Qingluo. Qingluo. Group leader he really. Yi Qingluo recalled Chi-Chi back as she randomly found a rock to sit on. Right, if we didn't run earlier, we should be fighting with Ajan right now. Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi's expressions congealed slightly as they pursed their lips tightly, unable to say a single word. They had interacted with Long Yunjian the longest. Their relationship with Long Yunjian was the deepest. Yi Qingluo didn't participate in the matters before they went to devil class. But Yi Qingluo knew. To Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi, Long Yunjian was their salvation. It was Long Yunjian who led them to pull themselves together again, setting up a new goal for them, giving them a new life. Not only the both of them. Everyone in devil class was the same. Why, group leader is from secluded palace. Until now, Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi were still unable to believe this fact. If this matter were to spread to the world group's brothers' ears, how much pain would their brothers be in? He didn't even dare to think about it. It's my fault. Yi Qingluo leaned into Dmo Xian's arms. Secluded Palace's target is me and Ajan is a chess piece of Secluded Palace. It's not your fault. Yan Xiaoyi hurriedly said. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have met group leader. Yi Qingluo's eyelids drooped as her eyes dimmed. I ran because I didn't want to go against Ajan. She took a deep breath. Secluded Palace really knows how to use the thing that we care the most, and even hurt us. Once. What about the second time? Huang Fusheng looked at Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi's pained expressions and straightforwardly asked the most crucial question. You have to solve the problem of facing him. As a bystander, Huang Fusheng hadn't gone through life and death with Long Yunjian and the others, so he was the one who could tell the problem most directly. I'm afraid that is the goal of the Abyss Palace. Even if Long Yunjian did not complete his mission, his appearance has disturbed all of your hearts. Gu Zixi walked to Yan Xiaoyi's side and hugged her gently. Although Ah Sheng's words aren't pleasant to hear, they are the truth. You can be sad, you can be upset, but you can't let yourself be defeated because of him. The few of them fell silent. The two of you don't be so sad. I didn't even say that I'm going to stand against Ajan. Can you listen to me for a moment? Two voices sounded at the same time. Yi Qingluo paused her voice and looked towards Miao Xianxian who had spoken out earlier. The young lady's bright eyes stared straight at her. Yi Qingluo waved her hand, asking Miao Xianxian to come over. The young lady immediately ran over to Yi Qingluo's side. When she got close to Yi Qingluo, but she was stopped in her tracks by the man behind Yi Qingluo's gaze. Chapter 46-28. Don't scare the young lady. Yi Qingluo gave Dmo Xian a stare and squeezed his palm hard. Perhaps. This is Ajan's savior. Heh. Dmo Xian shot a cold glance at Miao Xianxian. Savior? The fact that I didn't kill him just now means that I've been patient enough. Yi Qingluo was all smiles as she wrapped her arms around Dmo Xian's neck, as she leaned close to his face and planted a kiss. Yes, I know my Xian has been extremely patient because of me. Reward him with a big one. That tone was as though she was coaxing a large-sized dog pet. She was just short of rubbing his head. Unfortunately, Dmo Xian enjoyed it. The moment the young lady took the initiative to kiss him, he then mercifully shifted his icy cold eyes away from Miao Xianxian. He lowered his head tightly and played with the young lady's slender fingers. Come here. Yi Qingluo waved at Miao Xianxian. The young lady looked at Dmo Xian in fear and hesitated. Yi Qingluo smiled. With me around he won't dare to glare at you. Miao Xianxian hesitated for a moment before she moved her feet and walked to Yi Qingluo's side. But she didn't get too close. Instead, he stood 2 steps away from Yi Qingluo and stopped. Qingluo, what do you mean by what you said earlier? We don't need to go against the group leader? Is there any other way to wake the leader up? Yan Xiaoyi's face was filled with anxiety. Don't keep me in suspense, I'm dying of anxiety. Yi Qingluo's lips curled slightly as she winked at Miao Xianxian. Didn't Xianxian have something to say? Let's hear what Xianxian has to say first. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest looked towards Miao Xianxian in unison. It was rare to be stared at by so many people. The young lady was shy and unnatural as she averted her gaze. Wait. Ren Jianming couldn't stand it anymore as he walked to Miao Xuanxuan's side and pulled her behind him, blocking Yan Xiaoyi and the rest's gazes. She's just a young lady who sells information, and has nothing to do with this matter. Because of me, she has been implicated and offended my eldest sister. When Ren Jianming mentioned Ren Jianying, he looked very ashamed. He pursed his thin lips. We can't drag her into this anymore. From the moment she sold the information to you, she was already involved. Yan Xiaoyi frowned. This matter has nothing to do with you, don't interrupt. What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? Ren Jianming stood in front of Miao Xianxian to protect her. The young lady is only involved because of me. That's enough. Your regiment commander's matter has nothing to do with the young lady. Can't you see that she's afraid? What do you want to force her to say? Because of Long Yunjian, he was already anxious and frustrated. Yan Xiaoyi had been suppressing her emotions. Now because of Ren Jianming's interference. Moreover, he used a blaming tone. Yan Xiaoyi instantly exploded. What do you mean? The guild leader has nothing to do with you, so of course you wouldn't understand our feelings. Since Xianxian was allowed to speak, it meant that Xianxian had her own views on the matter regarding the regiment leader. Xianxian hasn't said anything yet. What are you shouting for? Ren Jianming's expression froze. Both sides' arrogance was ignited at this moment. At the moment when swords were drawn, a light cough interrupted the two's tit for tat. Can't the both of you wait for the young lady to finish her words? Yi Qingluo's gaze lingered on the both of them. What if the young lady is frightened by your quarreling? Latest update, no pop-up window please. Chapter 46-29. The two of them looked at each other and shut their mouths. Yi Qingluo pointed at Xiaojin. Pull your wife back. After that, she looked at Ren Jianming. The young lady hasn't spoken yet. Why are you so nervous? Why have you taken a fancy to her? Ren Jianming's face flushed red in an instant. Took a fancy to Miao Xianxian? The person he liked was obviously. Ren Jianming couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. He felt a burning sensation on his face. He turned around and looked at Miao Xianxian behind him, wanting to say yes. But when he met the young lady's bright eyes, his face turned even redder. Aluo, what nonsense are you talking about? I don't mean that, I just. You don't need to explain to me, you know what you're thinking about. Yi Qingluo waved her hand with an I understand expression. Ren Jianming. He was even more confused now. Yi Qingluo looked at Miao Xianxian with a beaming smile. Her voice was clear and sweet, but it was just a normal chatting tone. Xianxian, because of Ren Jianming's matter today, I'm really sorry for dragging you into the Ren family's fight. Miao Xianxian stuck out her little head from behind Ren Jianming and shook her head vigorously. It's all right, I'm not afraid of her. Now, I'm afraid she's the one who's afraid of you. Yi Qingluo laughed softly and continued. Regarding my friend's matter. If you're not willing to help, I understand, so you don't need to have any psychological burden. I'm willing. Miao Xianxian blinked her bright eyes. Why wouldn't I be willing? Do you know, once you're involved in this matter, there's a possibility that your life will be in danger. Ren Jianming listened to the young lady's innocent words. His heart was filled with worry. He held the young lady's arm with both hands and said solemnly, the enemy we're facing is not as simple as the Ren family's patriarch. There's a more complicated force behind. I know. Miao Xianxian looked at Ren Jianming's worried face. She suddenly smiled brightly. She hugged Ren Jianming with both hands and said in a clear voice, thank you for your concern. I know what you want to say. and I know what I'm doing, don't worry. The young lady's face was covered in dust, and her body was covered in dust. But when she hugged herself, Rin Jianming felt a soft warmth in his arms. The unique fragrance of a woman seeped into his nose. His heart trembled violently. His body was stiff and he couldn't react at all. Miao Xianxian only hugged him for a while before letting go of him. She then looked at Yan Xiaoyi and the others. Actually, I came to the heaven realm because of the guild leader that you all mentioned. Let me reintroduce myself. My surname is Miao, and my name is Miao Xianxian. I'm the next holy lady of the Miao Gu family in the earth domain. Miao. Miao Gu clan. Yan Xiaoyi looked at Miao Xianxian in shock. You're the holy maiden of the Miao Gu family. You came to the heaven realm for our guild leader? In that case, that was, their leader had been poisoned by a venomous insect? That's right. Gu poison. That's right. The gu poison in Ajan's body has yet to be neutralized. Yi Qingluo continued the conversation. At that time I asked little Qinggu, and she mentioned that the venom in Ajan's body can only be undone by the person who planted the venom in the upper realm. But what does this gu poison have to do with the fact that the captain is from the Palace of Darkness? Yan Xiaoyi tried her best to digest what she had just learned. Could it be that Dark Secluded Palace used gu poison to threaten the leader? Latest update, no pop-up window please. Chapter 4630. It's not entirely because of the venomous worm. Yi Qingluo shook her head. The venomous worm is only a small part of the reason. Based on my understanding of Ajan, if it's only because of the venomous worm, he would rather die than bear to touch us. Then what's the reason? Yan Xiaoyi asked anxiously. Ever since Mo Yuing told everyone about Long Yunjan's body being planted with the heart-devouring worm. At that time, Long Yunjan was indeed depressed because of the heart-devouring worm, but because everyone wished for him to stay alive, and because Mo Yuing brought back Yi Qingluo's words, which made Long Yunjan persevere on, and the heart-devouring worm didn't show any signs of acting up. Everyone gradually let down their guard. And then, until now, Yan Xiaoyi's expression changed. What you mean is, the heart-devouring worm in group leader's body has already acted up? There's a strong smell of the worm on him. Miao Xianxian nodded. But there seems to be something suppressing his worm, so that he doesn't lose his rationality. Yan Xiaoyi's expression suddenly turned pale. Her petite body swayed. Xiao Jin supported her from the side and pulled her into his arms, then looked at Miao Xianxian. Then do you have any way to help him detoxify the worm? I've heard Auntie Miao mention about the heart-devouring worm. This time, I'm under orders from Auntie Miao and the family to specially come over to resolve the heart-devouring worm. Miao Xianxian's head drooped. But I'm not sure if I have any way. Auntie Miao said that the heart-devouring worm in his body came from the most powerful witchcraft family. Only the person who planted the worm can detoxify the heart-devouring worm. I can only try my best, but I can't guarantee if I can detoxify the worm. For a moment, the few of them turned silent. There wasn't 100% certainty. That meant there was danger. In the process of detoxifying the worm, a little bit of danger could cost one's life. Previously Auntie Miao and I were still wondering who it was. Why would they plant such a precious worm on Ajan? Now, I finally understand. Yi Qingluo laughed lightly. Secluded Palace really thinks highly of me, plotting everything from the start. Now they even used such a precious worm to plot against me. The heart-devouring parasite was definitely related to the Netherworld Palace. In the beginning, the heart-devouring parasite was planted on Long Yunjan, probably because she was worried that Long Yunjan would really develop feelings for her. He could use it to control Long Yunjan. But then, the Palace of Obscurity had underestimated the so-called brotherhood and revolutionary feelings of fighting side by side. Then he made some other preparations behind the scenes. Don't think too deeply into it. Yi Qingluo opened her mouth to break the silence. Since Aunt Miao and the Miao Gu family invited you over, they definitely believe in your ability, and I also believe that you can do it. But, she paused for a moment. Have you guys ever considered that with Ajan's current condition, there's no way he'll cooperate with us to dispel the goo? The others were slightly startled. Indeed. Now Long Yunjian didn't even have the chance to talk to them. Not to mention cooperating with them to cure the goo. How could the Palace of Darkness give them such a chance? Yan Xiaoyi muttered to herself for a moment, and suddenly thought of something as she raised her head to look at Yi Qingluo. Qingluo, previously why did you say that we won't go against group leader? And the reason why he would stand on the Palace of Obscurity's side is not only because of the heart-devouring parasite. What other reason is there? She asked. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-31. I haven't thought of that yet. Yi Qingluo shook her head. The only thing I can be sure of is, the thing that threatens Ajan is as important as us. Leader, he must be feeling terrible. Yan Xiaoyi lowered her eyelids and leaned her head on Xiao Jin's shoulder. If it was really as they had guessed, the reason why Long Yunjian stood on the opposite side of them, it was because he had his own difficulties. It was only because they were standing opposite each other that they almost started fighting. They were in so much pain and suffering. Then their leader would probably feel even worse than them. Personally, stabbing the sword into Yi Qingluo's body almost took Yi Qingluo's life. He forced himself to stand in front of them and face their swords. He even had to hide all of his emotions. Actually, Long Yunjian was in more pain than them. Secluded Palace. Yan Xiaoyi gritted her teeth, pausing between each word. I really want to kill the person behind Secluded Palace. Is he really that happy to play with our feelings? That's because that man will never be able to experience the feeling of being loved. That's why he's jealous. Yi Qingluo comforted him softly. Find a chance to test Ajan. As long as we solve the problem from the root, Secluded Palace's motive will not succeed. What should we do? Yan Xiaoyi asked. Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes slightly as a dangerous glint flashed past her eyes. Tonight, Xian and I will head over to the Ren family to check on the situation. You all follow Ren Jiaming to hide first, in case the people from Secluded Palace find you. Yan Xiaoyi also wanted to follow, but it was also clear. The fewer people there were, the safer it would be. She could only suppress the worry in her heart and agree. You guys have to be careful too. The Palace of Gloomy Shadows is very cunning. Knowing that His Majesty is here, they will definitely take extra precautions. To guard against trouble? I don't think so. Or rather, the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was waiting for them to visit the Ren family at night. But this guess, in order to prevent them from worrying, Yi Qingluo didn't say it out. The night was as dark as ink. The night sky was quiet and dense. It gave off a chill that made one's hair stand on end. It was as if he was announcing that there would be no peace tonight. Two silhouettes stepped lightly onto the jade tiles. Everywhere he went, there wasn't the slightest sound, and he floated silently like the wind. In a short moment, the two of them were already standing inside the Run clan's mansion. The Run family was silent. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Not even a single candle was lit. There wasn't even the slightest hint of a human aura. Generally speaking, families with large forces like these would not be able to afford to offend them. Every night, 2 candles would be lit at regular intervals to illuminate the area. However, the Ren family was in complete darkness. Yi Qingluo raised her eyebrows. Could it be that this was how the Ren family welcomed their night visit? Under the night sky, the girl's bright and charming eyes met the man's. Dmo Xian locked onto her waist and immediately leapt up. With a few leaps, he landed on the other side of the Ren family. It was still quiet and dark all around. There was not the slightest bit of light. But at this moment, a slight sound came from behind him. It was very obvious. There were still people living in the Ren residence. Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian quietly approached the source of the sound. He landed in an extremely spacious courtyard. The sound of Ren Jianying gasping in pain came from inside. Damn the Miaogu clan, it hurts. There was even a maid comforting her in a low voice. But Ren Jianying, who was in extreme pain, how could she hear other people's voices? She was annoyed and furious. And because of the goo worms in her body jumping up and down, the pain was unspeakable. Update complete. Moi. My computer crashed while I was in agony. It kept crashing and the blue screen kept crashing. The kind of blue screen the moment I turned it on. It's tormenting me so much that I'm about to collapse. Sob, 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 please comfort me. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-32. Yiqing Luo. You slut. I will definitely take revenge for this. Ren Jianying cursed hoarsely. Her voice was already hoarse from all the shouting. It was Ren Jianying's courtyard. From the looks of it, she should be suffering from the goo worm that Miao Xianxian had planted on her. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her lips curled. This was Ren Jianying's own trap. She couldn't blame anyone else. But, based on Ren Jianying's current status, over at the secluded palace, they should more or less care about her. Why? Ren Jianying was suffering from the goo worm, and was in so much pain. The secluded palace actually had no intention to help her, leaving Ren Jianying to howl in pain. Could it be that they weren't worried that Ren Jianying's condition would easily shake the other powerhouses? That hand on her waist wrapped around her waist tightly. The man's boiling hot chest pressed tightly against her back. It made her body immersed in warmth. His entire body was filled with a man's elegant sandalwood scent. Dmo Xian bent down slightly as his thin lips slowly moved towards Yiqing Luo's ear. His low voice was like a stream of air as it drilled into her ear. Lil Luo, or look at her neck. That ticklish feeling was like a feather, tickling her skin, her heart. Yiqing Luo was starting to suspect if he did it on purpose. Knowing that her ear was sensitive, he still moved so close. Yiqing Luo's little hand pushed him. Just as she moved, the man seemed to know what she wanted to do as he accurately grabbed her little hand and stuffed it into his big palm. That thin lips by the side of her ear lightly moved again. Look. You're still looking at her neck. Yiqing Luo pinched the arm which was across her waist. After giving a cold humph, she shifted her gaze towards Ren Jianying's direction. Just at this moment, her gaze had yet to land on Ren Jianying. Suddenly, her waist tightened. The man hugged her and with a leap, he silently stepped onto the jade tiles. At the same time, a figure which had completely blended into the night slowly appeared at the entrance of Ren Jianying's room. Yiqing Luo's angle was just nice to see everything below. That figure, wasn't it the Grand Elder whom she saw in the afternoon? Why did he come to Ren Jianying's room? In the afternoon he was clearly extremely disdainful of Ren Jianying, and he didn't seem to care at all. At this moment, he was actually going to visit her at night? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curled into a devilish smile. She had a feeling that something 18+ was about to happen in the room. Yiqing Luo stuck her little head out and looked into the room. Her head was heavily knocked by the man's well-defined fingers. Yiqing Luo hugged her head and gave him a stare. From below, the servant girl's respectful voice rang out. Great Elder, you may leave. The Great Elder waved his hand, his cold voice sounding even more treacherous in the night. After the Great Elder stepped into the room, Ren Jianying, who was moaning in pain on the bed, also stopped. However, if one listened carefully, one would be able to hear her gasps and muffled groans of pain. The door was quickly closed. Only the First Elder and Ren Jianying were left in the room. Ren Jianying. The Great Elder's voice was gloomy as he slowly called out Ren Jianying's name. The person on the bed shrank slightly, but she stubbornly turned her back, unwilling to look at him. The petite figure trembled slightly on the bed. The Great Elder slowly walked to the side of the bed. Just as he was about to sit down, Ren Jianying's hoarse voice was heard. Didn't the secluded palace intend to give up on me? Why are you still here for? Latest update, no pop-up window please. Chapter 46-33. The Great Elder stared at Ren Jianying for a while before saying, Why? Are you blaming me? How dare I? Taking a deep breath, Ren Jianying suppressed the cramping pain in her body and said, I know myself very well. I know that I am just a dispensable chess piece of the Dark Nether Palace. How can I blame you? The Great Elder sat down by the bed. His black robe was scattered beside the bed. He put his hand on Ren Jianying's body. Ren Jianying's delicate body trembled even more. To the Palace of Darkness, you're dispensable. But to me you're very important. The Great Elder used that gloomy voice to say such romantic words. It inexplicably made people have goosebumps all over their bodies. Ren Jianying took a deep breath and slowly breathed out a scorching breath. If you really value me, you won't be willing to part with me. How about this? Her body trembled. She couldn't bear the pain. She slowly turned around and looked at the great elder. After all, she was a person who had been reborn. She knew very well how to use her advantage. Even if her body was being corroded by the poison, and was in great pain, Ren Jianying could still maintain her most beautiful posture. Her face was pale from the pain, but she stubbornly didn't make a sound. She looked at the great elder with a pitiful gaze. Immediately, the coldness and ruthlessness on the great elder's body dissipated a little. The great elder stretched out his skinny fingers. His fingertips were full of calluses as he caressed the delicate skin of the woman. He grabbed Ren Jianying's wrist and tapped on her body. Ren Jianying's entire body went limp. She was sweating profusely as she panted heavily. In that instant, the pain in his body finally ceased. That coquettish look made the great elder's eyes burn with evil fire. He grabbed the woman's wrist and suddenly pulled her into his arms. Ren Jianying's delicate body stiffened, but soon softened. It doesn't hurt anymore, right? The great elder asked with an evil smile. Ren Jianying nestled in the great elder's arms. Her delicate body seemed to be boneless, sticking softly to the black robe. When she opened her mouth, she was still panting slightly. It's only temporary. She tilts her head back. Her pale and beautiful face was reflected in the great elder's eyes at close range. There was also sweat rolling down her forehead. 1 ton. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 46-34. It also carried a deathly aura. Ren Jianying's body stiffened. He wanted to avoid it, but he didn't dare to. Don't talk so much nonsense. While there's still time, let me have a taste of being sick of you first. The first elder's cold and vulgar words rang in Ren Jianying's ears. There was still time. Did the Tinyu Palace not intend to let her live? Ren Jianying's eyes were dark under the night sky, and a hint of coldness could be vaguely seen. However, when the great elder bent down, she took the initiative to wrap her arms around the great elder's neck, trying her best to please him. At this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was nestled on the roof, saw everything that happened in the house. He had also heard the conversation between the two of them. But Yiqing Luo's gaze fell directly onto Ren Jianying's neck. The candlelight in the room was dim. He could vaguely see the entangled figures on the bed. Ren Jianying leaned against the bed. His clothes had long been disheveled. A large portion of her fair skin was exposed. Around his neck, there was a necklace with a fiery red light flowing through it. It was extremely eye-catching. That was the azure water chain of light. The azure water light chain that belonged to her mother. Just now Dmo Xian wanted her to look at this necklace. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly as her slender fingers clenched tightly. She would never let Ren Jianying and the Palace of Darkness taint her mother's things. As though he sensed Yiqing Luo's thoughts, the man who was sticking close to her raised one hand and blocked her eyes. There was a faint warmth in his warm palm. The man leaned over and whispered in her ear, "Don't look, it'll dirty your eyes. We'll snatch that necklace back later." He had to snatch it back. However, if he snatched it openly, he might disturb the Palace of Darkness. There's no hurry. Dmo Xian hooked her body and brought her away from Ren Jianying's courtyard. The flirtatious sounds in the room gradually faded away. This continued until it stopped on the other side of the Ren residence. The person you're looking for is not in the Ren residence. Dmo Xian hugged her tightly. Long Yunjian was not in the Ren residence. Long Yunjian was the person specially arranged by the Abyss Palace to deal with her. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness had finally managed to lure her out. They definitely couldn't let Long Yunjian leave the old city now. Long Yunjian was not in the Ren residence. That meant in this old city. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 46-35. No wonder when Ren Jianying saw Grand Elder, she couldn't help but reveal a fearful reflex action. It turned out that this Grand Elder liked to play with some exciting things. TSK. She was indeed a reborn person. Her psychological quality was really strong. She knew that the other party didn't really care about her. She also knew the other party's bad habits. But in order to achieve her own goal, she voluntarily offered her own body. A woman who was so ruthless to her own family. Indeed, it was easy to succeed. If Ren Jianying didn't choose the wrong partner, perhaps Ren Jianying's ambition could really be achieved. But unfortunately, ambition was bigger than her own ability, and to cooperate with a partner whom she couldn't control. This doomed her to failure. After the maidservant finished packing, she left. Ren Jianying laid in the bedding without moving. If it wasn't for that pair of eyes, occasionally blinking, Yiqing Luo thought that Ren Jianying had been played to death. This filthy thing must not be seen by Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo covered Dmo Xian's eyes with both hands and turned towards him. Wait at the door, I'll go in to get the Azure Aqua light chain. From the first floor, Dmo Xian's vision had been fixed on her, not shifting away for half a second. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he frowned slightly. The young lady leaned forward and planted a kiss on his face. I'm not asking you to leave. You stay at the door. If there's a trick, I'll call you. Perhaps that kiss pleased the man. The man released her slender waist. Yiqing Luo was about to enter the room. Suddenly she thought of something, turned around and stared angrily at Dmo Xian. Don't peek at her. Dirty eyes. Dmo Xian smiled lightly as he pinched the young lady's cheek. If I want to see, I only want to see Lil Luo's naked body. Yiqing Luo. Her face blushed slightly as she stared at Dmo Xian, and entered the room. In the room, the maid lit up the incense to remove the smell. Her footsteps were silent. The person on the bed sensed something. Get out, no one is allowed to come in. But there was silence for a moment. There was no response. Ren Jianying's suppressed emotions exploded at this moment as she looked over angrily with a hoarse voice. This patriarch asked you to get out, didn't you hear? The question mark word had yet to come out. Ren Jianying's pupils constricted when she saw who it was. The expression on his face darkened. What are you doing here? Ren Jianying suddenly sat up on the bed. The pain in her body made her suck in a breath of cold air. The bright red marks on his arms seemed to show the humiliation he had just suffered. Ren Jianying immediately pulled up the bedding and covered her skin. You want to see my joke, right? Now that you've seen it, are you satisfied? He looked like a wounded hedgehog. She didn't have any of her usual arrogance as a strong woman. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched in ridicule as her eyes revealed an extremely shallow cold arc. You yourself are a joke. Do you need me to specially come over to take a look? Ren Jianying pursed her lips and gripped the bedding tightly. She didn't refute Yiqing Luo's words, but used a venomous gaze to stare at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Long Yunjian said that you would come to the Ren family tonight. I didn't expect you to really come. Her voice was filled with unconcealable venom. I should have believed in Long Yunjian's understanding of you and arranged an inescapable net to catch you like a turtle in a jar. Mentioning Long Yunjian, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Zhanhe said that I would come to the Ren family tonight? Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly as her voice sounded a little dry. TXT 2016 website. Over 100,000. Mobile phone can directly download TXT. Chapter 46-36. Hearing the solemnity in Yiqing Luo's tone, Ren Jianying laughed coldly as her face was filled with a malicious smile. Do you really think that Long Yunjian still remembers your past relationship? He's from the Palace of Darkness, and right from the start, he's from the Palace of Darkness. His motive is to deal with you. As she said that, she laughed even more maniacally. Long Yunjian is a chess piece which the Palace of Darkness specially arranged by your side. You actually believe in a chess piece? Hoping for a chess piece to develop feelings for you? Ren Jianying laughed as her brows were filled with ridicule. Let me tell you, after you left yesterday, Long Yunjian told Grand Elder. Based on your character, you will definitely come to the Ren family at night, and asked us to take precautions. At this point, the smile on her face gradually disappeared. Her 5 fingers clutched the bedding tightly. If it wasn't for the fact that Grand Elder doesn't believe in Long Yunjian's words, do you think that you can stand in front of me now? Ren Jianying's words were like thunder, falling into Yiqing Luo's mind. Bursts of roaring filled her ears. Indeed. Based on Long Yunjian's understanding of her, he definitely knew that tonight she would come to the Ren family to look for him. He told this matter to Grand Elder. Did he want Grand Elder to catch her? Long Yunjian was sincere. Or was there any other reason? Only by personally asking Long Yunjian would he be able to get the answer, no matter how turbulent her heart was. Yiqing Luo's expression was as calm and indifferent as usual, without any fluctuation of emotions. But aren't I standing in front of you now? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as she indifferently got closer to her. And you, how are you going to escape from my hands? Ren Jianying's laughing expression instantly froze on her face. Her hands clasped the bedding tightly as her body tensed up. You can't possibly make a move on me. This is the Ren residence and there are many people from the Palace of Darkness around. If I were to scream, you won't be able to escape. Why don't we try and see if you die first or if I get caught first? Yiqing Luo smiled as she stood by the bedside, condescendingly looking down at the lady on the bed. Ren Jianying's body shifted backwards. Yiqing Luo, you don't come over. As for the girl, she slowly approached. Ren Jianying, whose eyes were filled with shock, shrank back a little when the young girl approached her. Suddenly, the corners of Ren Jianying's mouth curled into a strange smile, and she stretched her arm out from under the blanket. In her hand was a wooden box which was filled with profound yin qi, as she threw it towards Yiqing Luo's direction fiercely. Ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo, did you really think that I didn't have any precaution at all? Grand Elder doesn't believe Long Yunjian's words, but I believe. Ren Jianying's face was distorted, filled with the crazy pleasure of revenge. This is the witchcraft spell that I got from the Great Elder. Didn't you take that person from the Miao family away? I want to see what method she has to cure you. Pa. The wooden box fell to the ground. Ren Jianying's smile froze on her face once again. Because, at the moment when the wooden box was hurled towards Yiqing Luo's figure had actually disappeared in front of her eyes. Until the wooden box fell to the ground. The girl appeared on her bed. A hand hooked onto the necklace around her neck. A caw sound was heard. The necklace fell into the young lady's fair slender fingers. Ren Jianying went into a blank for a moment, as her pupils suddenly widened, as both her hands swiftly pressed onto her own neck. This is my thing. Let go. Let go. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-37. Your things. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile. Are you sure this is yours? Ren Jianying stared at that brilliant necklace in Yiqing Luo's hands as her eyes were filled with terror. Yiqing Luo, you broke it and gave it to me. This is mine. She pounced towards Yiqing Luo and stretched out her hand to snatch the necklace. This necklace was given to her by the Dark Palace. It was also the most important thing for her to improve her strength. With this necklace, her strength was much stronger than before. Without this necklace, how could she make those restless powers in the heaven realm submit to her? Most importantly, the Great Elder would never let her off. The Netherworld Palace would not let her off. Thinking of these consequences, Ren Jianying's pupils constricted as her actions of pouncing towards Yiqing Luo became even more frenzied and impatient. Under the bedding, her skin, which was full of red marks, was exposed. Ren Jianying didn't care. She just wanted to get the necklace back. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as her smile was overflowing, revealing a flirtatious cold arc. The moment Ren Jianying pounced on him, his figure disappeared in front of Ren Jianying. It was as though he had fused with the air. Ren Jianying missed and looked around in panic. But he saw Yiqing Luo standing in the direction of the entrance. How did she do it? How did she get to the door? Ren Jianying's bloodshot beautiful eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. That brilliant and vibrant necklace rippled into a beautiful arc on Yiqing Luo's fingertips. Ren Jianying jumped down from the bed. Guangguo's body fell heavily to the ground with a thud. As for the wooden box that fell to the ground, the dense mysterious yin qi seemed to have found its target and rushed towards Ren Jianying. A horrified expression appeared on Ren Jianying's face. His body suddenly shrank back. No. That was the goo of witchcraft. It was the witchcraft worm which Grand Elder had instructed her to take the opportunity to plant on Yiqing Luo. It was definitely not something good. Ren Jianying was terrified and wanted to climb onto the bed. But how could her speed be faster than the Wu Gu? A wisp of black aura darted toward Ren Jianying. In an instant, it swallowed Ren Jianying. In the darkness of the night, Ren Jian's painful screams could be heard. Bang! The door was kicked open. Dmo Xian's figure appeared in front of Yiqing Luo. Not waiting for Dmo Xian to speak, the young lady had already pounced into his arms and stretched out her little hand to cover Dmo Xian's eyes as she shouted in a domineering manner. Don't open your eyes and don't peek. Ren Jianying was not wearing anything. She did not want her Xian to see another woman's naked body. Dmo Xian didn't move and obediently closed his eyes. Yiqing Luo's hand had not moved away from his eyes, even if the man couldn't see it. His long arms were still wrapped around the girl's waist. His thin lips moved slightly, and his voice was low. Let's go. Yiqing Luo pulled him along and changed their positions. He turned his back to Ren Jianying. Only then did she release his gaze. Following that, her arms wrapped around his neck and with a small leap, she leapt into Dmo Xian's arms. The man caught her steadily and held her firmly on her hips. We've already gotten the Azure Aqua Light Chain, let's go. Yiqing Luo swayed her little feet. Dmo Xian carried her and walked out of the room. The black mysterious Yin Qi made Ren Jianying's body, revealed a little outline. She curled up on the ground as she cried out in pain. Chapter 46-38. Yiqing Luo, don't be complacent too early. She stared venomously at the two figures who were walking out of the room. She used all her energy to howl hysterically. As long as your heart is soft, Long Yunjian will definitely kill you. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by the person you trust the most? Ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo, you're just a pitiful worm. Did you think that you can make Long Yunjian return to your side? To talk about brotherhood with you? No. Impossible. He has already been washed away by the secluded palace. He's now a chess piece who only listens to the arrangements of the secluded palace. Either you kill him or wait to be killed by him. He won't have any sense of guilt, because he doesn't have a heart. He doesn't have a heart at all. Ren Jianying vented the anger in her heart. The intense pain from the witchcraft worm made her lose her rationality. She knew that Yiqing Luo valued Long Yunjian very much. She also knew, as long as Long Yunjian was mentioned, it was a thorn in Yiqing Luo's heart. And that person who had already walked out of the room stopped in his tracks following her words. Ren Jianying knew that her guess was indeed right. Her words had indeed pierced into Yiqing Luo's heart. As long as Yiqing Luo was in pain. As long as Yiqing Luo was in pain. No matter how much pain she was in, she could take it. Looking at Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's harmonious and loving look, Ren Jianying only felt that it was a thorn in her eyes. On what basis could Yiqing Luo obtain the one and only love? To make the overlord dote on her so much. And she spent so much effort. But she couldn't get what she wanted. She had to force herself to climb from this man's bed to that man's bed. On what basis? She was obviously not worse than Yiqing Luo. Not any weaker than Yiqing Luo. Why was heaven so unfair? Giving her a second life but treating her in such a way. If her ending was like this, then why did she have to be reborn? Ren Jianying's heart was filled with resentment and anger. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something, and under the devouring of the witchcraft worm, her lips curled upwards. Yiqing Luo, do you want to know why was Long Yunjian washed away all his feelings by the secluded palace? Do you want to know why Long Yunjian became a puppet? Ren Jianying burst out laughing. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo's reply, he directly gave his answer. You probably don't know that Long Yunjian likes you, right? A chess piece had developed feelings for his own mission target. Ha ha ha. What a joke. He likes you, and it's the kind of affection between a man and a woman. Bang. A gust of wind blew over. Dmo Xian's sleeves fluttered. The entire courtyard collapsed with a loud crash. Ren Jianying was engulfed in the collapsed building. Ah Xian, Yiqing Luo grabbed Dmo Xian's arm and suppressed his agitation. Dmo Xian's brows were filled with viciousness. But when he lowered his eyes to look at the girl, the expression on his face quickly softened. However, even if it was a gentle expression, Yiqing Luo could tell. He was angry. Moreover, very angry. Yiqing Luo hugged him tightly as she rubbed against his chest and propped up her waist as she placed her forehead on his. Her motive is to disturb my heart, don't be angry. Her stupidity touched his face. How could a Jean like me? This kind of lie, no one would believe it even if I told you. Chapter 46-39. He really likes you. Dmo Xian's voice was a little deep, and she could faintly hear the suppressed anger in it. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she used her forehead to knock against his forehead. Are you silly, to actually believe what she said? I've known since a long time ago that he likes you. Dmo Xian held her hips, making her more comfortable in his arms. However, that pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes looked at her very seriously. So, I don't like you to be too close to him, and I don't like you to save him. Yiqing Luo. She was a little confused and couldn't wrap her head around it. Wait. Yiqing Luo shook her head. No, if Ajan likes me, what does Yiqing count as? Ever since He Long and Yin Zhan met, she clearly sensed that the atmosphere between Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing was obviously different. All that was left was for someone to speak up and break the ambiguous deadlock between them. Then they would be together officially. Why did it suddenly become Long Yunzhan liking her? If Long Yunzhan really likes Tong Ziqing, he wouldn't have made Tong Ziqing wait for him for so long. Dmo Xian's voice was a little cold. After finishing this sentence, he stared at Yiqing Luo. His eyes darkened. Under the dim light of the night, he appeared even more indescribably handsome. He suddenly lowered his head and bit the tip of the girl's nose. I'm jealous, he muttered. That aggrieved look was very much like that of a large canine pet. Yiqing Luo sighed. What's there to be jealous about? Look at me. Till now, I still don't know that Ajan might like me. You don't need to know. Dmo Xian's tone became more serious, as if he was a pet fighting for attention. You only need to know that I love you. That's enough. This man was flirting again. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and pinched his face. All right, don't be in a hurry to be jealous, I'm afraid. We're in trouble. It was indeed troublesome. How could it not be troublesome? The two of them were so unbridled in the Ren family. Ren Jianying's voice and hysterical roar. In such a quiet night, how could it not attract the attention of others? Especially earlier, Dmo Xian had directly flipped Ren Jianying's courtyard. It caused such a huge sensation. The guards of the Ren residence and the people from the Dark Abyss Palace rushed over. Dmo Xian's expression did not fluctuate. His deep eyes looked at her deeply. Coincidentally, I'm not in a good mood. These people came just in time. Yiqing Luo. A jealous man was really scary. The first elder came in a hurry. He hadn't even put his clothes on properly. Obviously, after tasting the sweetness from Ren Jianying, he returned to the base to rest in satisfaction. When he heard the commotion, he hurried over. On seeing Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, Grand Elder's expression sunk. You too. His brows creased tightly as his gaze fell onto the necklace in Yiqing Luo's hand. Azure water chain. The Great Elder clenched his teeth and looked at the ruins. As expected of trash who can't do anything right. I told you that she would come to the Ren residence tonight, but you didn't believe me. A cold voice came from behind the first elder. Long Yunzhan's expression was cold. Under the night sky, his azure eyes were emotionless and cold. How would this elder know that what you said is true? The first elder's expression was ugly as he turned his head and looked at Long Yunzhan. You and that woman used to have such a good relationship. How would this elder believe you? Now do you believe me? Long Yunzhan shot a glance at him indifferently, without any ridicule or any other meaning. Latest update, no pop-up window please. Chapter 46-40. Grand Elder's face turned black as he didn't continue talking to him. After Long Yunzhan appeared, Yiqing Luo's vision was fixed on him. Her eyes were sparkling like water waves as she stared at Long Yunjian without blinking. Ever since Ren Jianying mentioned Long Yunjian, she could still lie to herself. All these were fake. Ren Jianying intentionally mentioned it to agitate her. But now Long Yunjian appeared personally said. He had indeed made use of her understanding of her to help Secluded Palace. Only, Secluded Palace didn't appreciate it. She snorted lightly, and a cold mocking expression flashed across her face. You're not allowed to look at him. A large palm covered her eyes. A man's unhappy voice was heard. I'm very unhappy now. Earlier, Yiqing Luo found out that Long Yunjian liked her. Now Yiqing Luo was still staring at Long Yunjian. Even if Dmo Xian knew that his wife had no feelings for Long Yunjian. But the moment Yiqing Luo's gaze looked over, he was unhappy. The young lady's long lashes slowly swept past Dmo Xian's palm. Her hand covered his palm as she slowly moved it away. All right, I won't look anymore. Long Yunjian, don't you want us to believe you? All right then. Now make a move on that woman and let me believe you. Grand Elder saw the young couple were still kissing each other, and his expression instantly turned ugly. Long Yunjian didn't say a word as he drew out the long sword in his hand. The blue profound glow was extremely dazzling in the quiet night. He held up his long sword as he walked towards Yiqing Luo step by step. Seeing Long Yunjian's actions, Grand Elder couldn't help but burst out laughing. I love this kind of internecine drama the most, ha ha ha. In the day, Long Yunjian faced her with his sword. Now Long Yunjian had once again used that sword which had once protected the World Group's brothers and aimed it at her. Even though she had many explanations for Long Yunjian in her heart, and had thought of numerous reasons for him. But when it came to this situation, Yiqing Luo's heart couldn't help but feel dull pain. Stand properly. Dmo Xian pulled her behind his back. His broad and tall figure blocked Yiqing Luo's line of sight. The man's entire body faintly emitted an oppressive profound energy. Yiqing Luo's little hand clutched his robes tightly as her gaze went past his body. Looking at that expressionless Long Yunjian, Don't kill him. Dmo Xian did not speak. He leaped. The sleeves of his purple robe fluttered. She was like a proud and aloof purple lotus. Bang! The terrifying dark radiance engulfed the entire Ren residence. The ground cracked open and the buildings collapsed layer by layer. The surroundings were filled with screams. Immediately after, the man moved and appeared in front of Long Yunjian. He moved his palm and countless dark force wrapped around Long Yunjian like silk threads. Long Yunjian reacted quickly and slashed with his saber. It actually withstood a wave of Dmo Xian's attack. A shocking profound light lingered in the sky. Yiqing Luo's eyes were fixated on Dmo Xian's body without blinking. As her heart started to palpitate uneasily, she could tell. Dmo Xian was really angry. These Ren residences guards and Secluded Palaces people had all become Dmo Xian's tools to vent his anger. Watching Dmo Xian and Long Yunjian cross hands, Yiqing Luo was still worried that Dmo Xian would injure Long Yunjian seriously, because he had injured her. Her attention was focused on Dmo Xian and Long Yunjian. She hadn't noticed that a figure behind her was silently approaching her. Chapter 46-41. Until Yiqing Luo's ears twitched. She vaguely heard something amiss in the wind. As soon as he turned around, he saw the Great Elder's extremely terrifying face. Seeing Yiqing Luo's reaction, he laughed sinisterly. Yiqing Luo, be good and take a nap, in case you suffer. Following Grand Elder's words, his black robe moved. What met her was a ball of thick black yin qi. Yiqing Luo immediately evaded. But Grand Elder's fingers were like eagle claws as he swiftly locked onto her shoulder. And just as Grand Elder was closing in on Yiqing Luo, Lil Luo, Dmo Xian's eyes turned sharp as he raised his palm towards Long Yunjian's chest, speedily heading towards Yiqing Luo's direction. It was thrilling and dangerous at this critical moment. Not waiting for the crowd to react, a figure appeared in midair in the direction where Yiqing Luo had retreated. Yiqing Luo directly crashed into that person's arms. Elegant plum fragrance, with a hint of coldness, poured down. Yiqing Luo subconsciously wanted to leave that person's arms. That person's long arms suddenly exerted strength as he locked her waist tightly, pressing her tightly into his arms. Yiqing Luo couldn't struggle free. Following that, an irresistible profound ray rippled out from that person's sleeves. The two figures disappeared from the Ren residence. Damn it! The great elder gritted his teeth and cursed. This sudden interruption had snatched away the prey that was already in his hands. Lil Luo. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with frost. The coldness between his brows seemed to be able to condense the surrounding air into frost. His frozen gaze looked towards Long Yunjian. You'd better pray that he won't hurt Lil Luo or otherwise. Even if Lil Luo speaks up for you, this lord will not be lenient. Earlier he was able to rush to Yiqing Luo's side in time. He waved that palm. Long Yunjian could totally avoid it. But Long Yunjian didn't avoid it. Instead he took the initiative to meet him. And it was that action that made Dmo Xian pause for a moment. And it was that moment. When he rushed towards Yiqing Luo, he was a step too late. He could only watch Yiqing Luo being taken away by someone. Long Yunjian didn't respond to Dmo Xian's words. A pair of azure blue eyes stared unblinkingly at the direction where Yiqing Luo had disappeared to. In his eyes, one could vaguely see a deep meaning that couldn't be dispelled. Yiqing Luo was held tightly in someone's arms. Until his feet touched the ground. That person still had no intention of letting go. He held her tightly in his arms. He greedily absorbed her scent. After struggling to no avail, Yiqing Luo's expression turned uglier and uglier. She simply stopped struggling and said coldly, Zhu Wuxin, if you don't let go, don't blame me for using poison. His voice was cold and emotionless. The person who was hugging her stiffened. Little by little he loosened his grip on her waist. Yiqing Luo left his embrace and took 2 steps back before she slowly raised her head to look at him. The man in front of him was dressed in a fiery red robe, and his black hair draped over his shoulders. There wasn't much emotion on his cold and handsome face. A pair of icy cold eyes stared at her without blinking. There were too many emotions beneath his eyes which Yiqing Luo couldn't understand, and didn't want to understand. What are you doing? Yiqing Luo looked at him as she asked. The man in front of her, on that icy cold face, slowly surfaced a different expression. He looked at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word, I miss you. Miss her. Miss her very much. Ever since they parted the last time. He restrained himself and didn't look for her again. But he couldn't help but miss her. Chapter 46-42. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A deafening explosion sound reverberated through the entire space. In the space, profound waves surged, as though a monstrous huge wave after wave crazily attacking. Even the sky had turned into an extremely oppressive deep black. The aura, crazily entangled, swallowing Yiqing Luo entirely. Yiqing Luo. This scene made the palace lord's pupils abruptly widen, as he screamed out Yiqing Luo's name hoarsely. He wanted to dash towards the side where the profound energy was surging, but his path was completely blocked by the Linglong Palace's disciples. Get lost! Get lost! The palace lord of the Linglong Palace bellowed furiously. The overbearing energy crazily sent the people who were blocking in front of him flying. But there were still numerous female disciples who came forward wave after wave. Under the black robe, that pair of gloomy and sullen eyes overflowed with large black threads. If he wasn't shrouded in the black robe, then everyone could see. That pair of eyes was like a densely packed spider web, with numerous black threads. Those black threads, bit by bit, lingered in his pupils. Boundless evil qi overflowed from the palace lord of the Linglong Palace. That piece after piece, like a thin fog, the evil qi speedily spread in all directions. Everywhere it went. Those Linglong Palace's female disciples who were flocking towards him all had a huge change in expression. Immediately following that, the expression on their faces started to turn sinister. One by one, they tore each other apart, tangling together. She realized that the evil qi which spread out was not right. Linglong Palace Lord's expression changed slightly, as she speedily retreated a few steps. She waved her sleeve. A transparent barrier blocked in front of her. It blocked off all the evil energy that was spreading over. But she had avoided the evil chi. But those female disciples who were guarding the surroundings were all affected by the evil chi. The method of killing each other was extremely vicious. Just a moment later, the entire space was filled with a thick blood stench. Blood also dyed the ground red. This scene made Linglong Palace Lord's expression sunk. She raised her voice. "Wake this palace lord up. What do you all look like?" It was so easy for him to be attracted by my mind. However, no one heard her voice. Without these obstacles in the way, he would not be able to stop them. The palace lord of Ethereal Palace immediately rushed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. In the meantime, earlier that wave of boundless energy which had engulfed Yi Qing Luo suddenly exploded with an extremely dense and intense aura. Bang! There was a loud noise. A fiery red shadow flashed past in front of his eyes. It was really fiery red. It was like a flame, dazzling and dazzling. That red was blinding for an instant. The surrounding air seemed to become extremely hot as a result. The surging heat and the blazing heat roasted everything around it. The ground was littered with corpses, and the smell of dried meat emanated from them. Many female disciples were affected by the evil Yin energy. Like a wild beast, he opened his mouth and began to tear at his opponent's flesh. It was an extremely bloody and cruel scene. The first judicial judge and the third judicial judge's relaxed faces immediately tensed up. He immediately raised his head and looked in the direction of the fiery red shadow. His entire body instantly froze. It was a giant bird that was entirely red in color. Its phoenix feathers were like flames, overflowing with brilliance and vibrant colors. As it spread its wings, there were rays of light flowing, extremely dazzling. Vermilion bird. One of the 4 sacred beasts, Vermilion bird sacred beast. Update completed. Tomorrow the Overlord will make a dazzling appearance, thanks to disaster. 8 book coins, say goodbye with a smile. 588, for 1100 book coins, Juju. S reward, love you all. End of this chapter. 97. Chapter 46-43. He shut his eyes hard. But if I was given another chance, I would still make the same choice. Because the days when he imprisoned her, it was his most beautiful memory. And that was also his way of protecting her. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips pursed even tighter. Zhu Wuxian, you're still like this until now. She turned around and the gaze she shot at him was filled with disappointment. Zhu Wuxian was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. His jet black hair hung down as it floated in the wind. His perfect side profile didn't have much emotion, but it made one feel the pain in his heart. Don't follow me anymore. Yi Qing Luo said calmly. I will not forgive you for what happened the last time. Saying that, she turned around and left. Behind her, Zhu Wuxian didn't follow her. Only Yi Qing Luo could feel that his burning gaze was following her closely, until her figure disappeared around the corner. Yi Qing Luo sighed deeply. She really didn't like to torment these complicated feelings. To her, if she liked someone, then they should be together. If the other party didn't like her, then she wouldn't disturb the other party, pestering and using unyielding methods, with an unusual stubbornness. It would only make the other party feel even more disgusted, wouldn't it? Zhu Wuxian was much more stubborn than Gu Jingyu. Yi Qing Luo rubbed her forehead. Her head was a little big. She'd better hurry back to the Ren residence. A Xian would definitely go crazy looking for her. Yi Qing Luo's figure swiftly wandered in the deep alley. But after walking for a distance, Yi Qing Luo stopped in her tracks as she frowned slightly and looked behind her. Zhu Wuxian? She sensed that someone had been following her. Silence for a moment. Only then did a figure slowly walk out from the darkness. It was a slender figure. She was dressed in a long, flowing dress, which made her look conspicuous and eye-catching. Yi Qing Luo was stunned as she looked at her in astonishment. It's you. The lady slowly walked towards Yi Qing Luo. Her eyes met with Yi Qing Luo's. Why are you? Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips as she was slightly astonished. Group leader Su. The person in front of her was the group leader of the 3rd mercenary group which she met in the Earth realm, and also Gu Zixi group leader, Su Qingbing. Why was she here? I want to talk to you about Wuxin. Su Qingbing's voice was calm, but the emotions in her eyes revealed her thoughts. Yi Qingluo's eyelashes fluttered and nodded after some time. All right. The two of them leaned against the wall. I'm not trying to persuade you to be with Wuxin. Su Qingbing tilted her head to look at her and smiled. I like Wuxin. She was very calm and naturally admitted her feelings for Zhu Wuxin. My obsession with him is the same as his obsession with you. So, I won't give up the chance to be with him. Su Qingbing withdrew her gaze and slowly raised her head to look at the narrow sky in the long alley. Then what do you want to discuss with me about him? Yi Qingluo admired this kind of lady. Love is open. Su Qingbing chuckled. If possible, I hope you can forgive him. Everything he has done is because he cares about you. He has never known what love is. Even when Ache and I are by his side, we have never felt any warmth from him. He totally doesn't know how to love, and doesn't know any feelings. Perhaps everything he has done has caused harm to you, but those, his original intention, were all for you. Su Qingbing lowered her head again. The reason why he imprisoned you the last time was actually because. Chapter 46-44. I know. Yi Qingluo turned her body sideways and placed her hand on her shoulder. Sure enough, she felt the woman's delicate body trembling slightly. In fact, after saying these words, Su Qingbing's heart felt even more uncomfortable. Anyone who faced their love rival and spoke up for their beloved, hoping that the love rival could forgive their beloved, her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Leader Su, I know he trapped me there. Because my profound jade heart secret was exposed. Yi Qingluo patted her shoulder lightly. He wanted to protect me. You know. Su Qingbing pursed her lips tightly. Her eyes looked at her without blinking. Since you know why. Knowing is one thing, but being able to accept it is another. Yi Qingluo let go of her shoulder and leaned against the wall again, raising her head to look at the sky. This matter concerns me. He should tell me everything, and whether to accept his arrangement is my decision. Do you know why I like Axian? She tilted her head and looked at Su Qingbing. Su Qingbing's pupils contracted slightly. Why? She was also very curious. Why would a free and unrestrained woman like Yi Qingluo choose a man like the Overlord? Based on Yi Qingluo's character, she was definitely not the kind of person who would be together with the Overlord because of his status. Even if they didn't meet many times. But Su Qingbing could see it. The relationship between Yi Qingluo and the Overlord. No one could step in. That kind of sincerity made one envious. Yi Qingluo lightly hooked her lips. Because Axian understands. Everything is based on my wishes. When mentioning DMO Xian, Yi Qingluo's expression was obviously much gentler. Her pink lips lightly hooked, her eyes filled with a faint smile. Whatever I want to do, Axian will support me unconditionally. As long as I want, he will definitely agree. I want to grow, so he suppressed his worry for me and let me fight alone. I want to become stronger, so he used his own way to help me. But never interfered in any of my matters. My decision, no matter how unbelievable, he will accompany me and complete it with me. When Yi Qingluo said this, she paused slightly. The smile and gentleness on his face became even more pronounced. Axian is not the kind of person who cares about other people's feelings, nor is he the kind of person who will compromise. Yi Qingluo smiled sweetly as she looked at Su Qingbing. Actually, the previous Axian and Zhu Wuxian should be considered as the same kind of person. But Axian is willing to change for me and compromise for me. Su Qingbing stared at her blankly. Some kind of emotion was surging in his eyes. But Zhu Wuxin is different. Yi Qingluo smiled as she opened her mouth. He's too stubborn, too stubborn. Towards me? Is it because of his past possessiveness or because he really loves me? I'm afraid even he himself isn't sure, right? Su Qingbing pursed her lips and looked at her firmly. No. He loves you, Wuxin, he absolutely loves you. Yi Qingluo smiled. No matter if it's love or possessiveness to me. It's too heavy. Zhu Wuxin has never cared about my wishes. He only uses his own thoughts to impose on me, deciding everything about me. To him he probably only wants a canary which he can control in his palm. A canary who will only follow by his side, who only has him in her eyes and heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-45. Su Qingbing was speechless. What Yi Qingluo said was indeed so. Zhu Wu Xian was a stubborn and overbearing person. Whatever he had his eyes on, must belong to him. Whatever he wanted, must belong to him. This kind of possessiveness and overbearingness made one suffocated. After some time, Su Qingbing finally found a chance as she spoke out in a hoarse voice. But if you don't give him a chance, how do you know that he isn't willing to change for you? If you are able to forgive Wu Xian, he will definitely be willing to change for you. Su Qingbing thought of this period of time. Zhu Wu Xian had completely changed into a different person because of Yi Qingluo. She had never seen Zhu Wu Xian who lost control. But as long as it concerned Yi Qingluo, Zhu Wu Xian seemed to have changed into another person. So, it wasn't that Zhu Wu Xian wasn't willing to change. But Yi Qingluo didn't give him that chance. Because I don't like him. Yi Qingluo's lips curled as she continued. Because I love Xian so. I will not give Zhu Wu Xian any chance. Su Qingbing was speechless once again. Since you like Zhu Wu Xian so much, then work hard and walk into his heart, and not here. To convince me to accept Zhu Wu Xian. Yi Qingluo smiled at her. All of you don't need to follow me anymore. This is a matter between me and the Palace of Darkness. Since Zhu Wu Xian had worked together with the Palace of Darkness, then don't interfere in this matter. I'm not asking you to accept him. At this moment, Su Qingbing's expression was completely different from the leader, who killed decisively and cleanly in front of the bloody mercenaries' members. Her face was filled with anxiety, anxious to convince Yi Qingluo. I'm hoping that you can forgive him for what he had done to you previously. Su Qingbing took a step back and bowed to her. Yi Qingluo, since you already know the real reason why Wu Xian did what he did, can you please forgive him on account that he did it because he cared about you? That's why he did the wrong thing. Yi Qingluo didn't reply. Su Qingbing was feeling apprehensive. Ever since you left, Wu Xian he seemed to have changed into another person. The him now really isn't like him. I can tell that he has been wanting to apologize to you. The lady's voice was very soft. It sounded like a plea. Yi Qingluo's expression didn't change, and her tone was indifferent. Leader Su, there's no need to say any more. With that, she turned around and walked away. Su Qingbing wanted to stop her. But when he saw the girl's back without hesitation, he felt a chill run down his spine. He swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. She had read countless people and naturally could tell Yi Qingluo's character. Since Yi Qingluo had already decided on something, no matter how she persuaded her, it would be of no use. Yi Qingluo would never forgive Zhu Wu Xian. That was unforgivable. What should she think of now to persuade Zhu Wuxin? Su Qingbing faintly sighed, turned around and walked in the direction of Zhu Wuxin. As soon as he turned around, he saw a figure dressed in a fiery robe standing in the shadows. The man leaned against the wall. He was shrouded in a layer of shadow. It seemed to be lingering with deep sorrow and loss. Su Qingbing's lips moved. Wu Wuxian, when did Zhu Wuxin stand there? How much did he actually listen to? The moment she opened her mouth, the man who was leaning against the wall suddenly swayed. As though he had lost his supporting strength, he suddenly fell limply onto the ground. Su Qingbing rushed over anxiously and immediately supported Zhu Wuxin. Wu Xian, are you all right? Chapter 46-46. Zhu Wu Xian lowered his head, not saying a single word, as though he had sealed himself in his own world. Su Qingbing squatted beside him, her slender fingers clasped tightly onto his arm. How much did you hear? Zhu Wu Xian had a reaction. His thick eyelashes trembled slightly. His cold gaze fell onto her. All of it. Su Qingbing was stunned by that cold gaze for a moment, as the hand which was holding onto his arm tightened. Then you She knows I'm beside her. Zhu Wu Xian seemed as though he hadn't heard Su Qingbing's words, as he muttered to himself. That pair of icy cold eyes looked ahead without any focus. Right from the start, she knew I was beside her. Her words were intentionally said for me to hear. The man's voice was very low, every word and sentence low and flustered. Su Qingbing didn't know how to comfort him. Or perhaps the current Zhu Wu Xian totally couldn't hear a single word. Yiqing Luo, who had left without any hesitation, stopped at the corner. She stood at the corner, taking a look at Zhu Wu Xian and Su Qingbing's direction. Seeing Zhu Wu Xian sitting on the ground, not knowing what he was thinking, Yiqing Luo sighed. But in the end, she left without turning back. She didn't know where Zhu Wu Xian had brought her to. The surroundings were filled with buildings and long alleys. But the environment was unfamiliar. It didn't seem like she was in the old city. Yiqing Luo leapt onto a wall, taking in the surrounding terrain, into her eyes. Her gaze suddenly fixed on a certain place. That was an extremely luxurious and spacious mansion. What attracted Yiqing Luo's attention wasn't the luxurious degree of that mansion, but she saw a black-robed old lady squatting there in a courtyard. The old lady's body was encircled by an extremely dense profound yin qi. That was the qi which came from the Nether Palace. Towards this kind of yin qi, Yiqing Luo was the most sensitive. The profound yin qi on this old lady was on par with that Grand Elder. Someone from the Nether Palace? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly, as she concealed her qi. As her figure moved swiftly, she stealthily approached the courtyard on the other side. There was no profound qi fluctuation in the surroundings. What was this old lady from the Palace of Darkness doing here? It was until they got nearer to the courtyard, when Yiqing Luo could faintly hear the complicated and strange words coming out from the old lady's mouth. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. The old woman muttered to herself for a long time. Only then did he stop. Very soon, a handsome young man dressed in the uniform of the Palace of Darkness walked over with a wet soft cloth. He half squatted beside the old woman and wiped her sweat. The man's voice was filled with flattery. "Venerable Wu, is your witchcraft a success?" As the man spoke, his body was almost pressed against the old woman's. The old woman moved her hand and pulled the man into her arms. "You want to know?" The old lady's voice was extremely ear-piercing and hoarse. Anyone who heard it couldn't help but feel their hair stand on end. The man had clearly been by the old woman's side for a long time. His words were filled with conforming to the old woman. "I just want to know if you can spend more time with me after the witch Gu succeeds." The old woman laughed sinisterly. She lowered her head to that young man's mouth, as she fiercely spat a mouthful of saliva. "You only know how to please me. This thing has succeeded." The old woman pulled the man away from her arms and immediately stood up. Chapter 46-47. The old lady stood up. Yiqing Luo saw a huge basin placed in front of the old lady. That basin seemed to be made of silver. But on a closer look, it seemed to be made of other materials. Streaks of dark flowing light could be seen above it. And that basin was crawling with densely packed goo worms. The goo worms were black in color, and were overflowing with dense profound yin qi. The most shocking thing was that densely packed goo worms crawled all over the basin, but none of them crawled out of that basin. This batch of witchcraft is considered to be successful, but we need to find a few more people to test the effects of this witchcraft. The old lady said in a sharp voice. The young man's expression changed slightly, as he immediately stuck close to the old lady. Then, "Shall I bring those people over for Old Witch to test the witchcraft?" The old lady touched his face. "Don't be so anxious, Grandma likes you so much. How would I bear to use you to test the witchcraft?" The young man gave a flattering smile, but in his eyes, there was an unconcealable fear. The old lady let go of him, as she waved her hand. Go, bring them out, and test the effect of my witchcraft." The young man immediately walked out of the courtyard. The conversation between the two. Yiqing Luo had heard everything. Her eyes sunk slightly, as her brows creased tightly. Old witch. Witchcraft. Could it be that this old lady was the person from the witchcraft aristocratic family invited by the Palace of Darkness? That was the person who poisoned Long Yunjian. She couldn't understand the string of words just now at all. She was refining witchcraft, right? This old lady, refining this batch of witchcraft. What was she trying to do for the Palace of Darkness? What motive did the Palace of Darkness have? After a while, the young man brought 5 young girls with him. The young ladies' eyes were filled with fear, as their mouths were gagged, as they struggled and whimpered. The old lady stretched out her hand, as she grabbed one of the young ladies. That young lady's eyes widened in fear. The old lady held onto the young lady's chin, as she pulled her in front of her. A twisted expression surfaced on her sinister face. What a young and beautiful young lady. This face is so glaring. She laughed sinisterly, seeing the fear in the young lady's eyes. She laughed even more crazily. I don't know if you'll be able to keep your beautiful face after the witchcraft is cast. Jia, 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 jia. The old woman laughed sinisterly and picked up a goo worm from the basin. The goo worm quickly crawled into the little girl's body. In the blink of an eye, the little girl rolled off the old woman's hand and onto the ground. At a speed visible to the naked eye, his body was covered with layers of black spots. The little girl screamed miserably on the ground. Soon, the little girl's appearance had changed beyond recognition. The old woman smiled as she watched. Her face was filled with pride and satisfaction from controlling their lives. The little girl screamed, and the other girls shrank back in fear. Their eyes were filled with fear and pleading. Suddenly, the little girl stopped screaming. Suddenly, he stood up straight from the ground. Ah! The sound that came out of the little girl's mouth was no longer that of a woman's scream. Instead, it sounded like a beast's roar. The little girl clenched her fists and shouted desperately. His hands were also hammering the ground. In a split second, countless cracks appeared on the ground. Its destructive power was extremely strong. Yi Qingluo had witnessed this entire scene. From her angle, she could clearly see. The little girl's body was covered with large patches of black spots, but they weren't black spots at all. But, from that goo worm, in her body it had spawned one after another little goo worms. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 46-48. Those little goo worms were controlling the young lady's body. An extremely destructive power. It wasn't the young lady's power, but the power of those little goo worms. Yi Qingluo's expression changed slightly. What was the secluded darkness palace trying to do by letting the people from the witchcraft family refine this kind of witchcraft? One witchcraft worm was able to control one person. This huge basin of witchcraft worm, didn't it mean to turn thousands of cultivators into monsters controlled by witchcraft worms? Yi Qingluo stared at that young lady who was desperately letting out beastly cries of ah ah ah. The entire courtyard was smashed into pieces by that young lady, collapsing in all sorts of ways. The young ladies who were tied up by the side were so frightened that they whimpered in fear. That young man looked at the young lady's destructive power as his brows were filled with smiles. Congratulations, Elder Wu. Your witchcraft worm has finally succeeded. The old lady stared at that young lady who had lost control as she squinted her malicious eyes slightly. Suddenly her 5 fingers moved. That young lady instantly stopped her destructive actions. Her mouth was letting out a painful cry. Following that, she fell onto the ground in pain. The densely packed little goo worms started to wriggle wantonly in the young lady's body. Not long later, the young lady was left with a pile of ghastly white bones. At the same time, the densely packed little goo worms on the young lady's body also disappeared. The young ladies by the side widened their eyes as tears of terror flowed down. Looking at that pile of ghastly white bones, the young man's smile froze as he hurriedly softened his tone. Elder Wu, this is still not enough. Elder Wu slowly turned around as he looked at the witchcraft worm in the basin. The power is too weakened. The duration is too short. It's useless. The young man's tone was slightly anxious. Elder Wu, this witchcraft worm's power is already very strong and it hasn't reached the last moment of control. So how can you be sure that the duration is not long enough? Elder Wu, you try again. Elder Wu's malicious eyes suddenly fixed onto that young man as his lips curled into a sneer. Why? You're very anxious? No. I am not. The young man realized that he had lost his composure as he hurriedly put on a flattering smile. I'm just worried that Elder Wu will be tired. You've worked hard for such a long time, and if this batch doesn't work, you'll have to work hard for a long time. The young man's voice was extremely gentle, and there was a hint of coquettishness in it. Elder Wu's furrowed brows relaxed. All right, don't try to coax me. Bring these people away. I want to see what the problem is with this goo. The young man hesitantly looked at the big pot of witchcraft insects. In the end, she pursed her lips and dragged the little girls out of the courtyard. Venerable Wu returned to the side of the basin and extended his hand into the basin. Witchcraft goo immediately crawled all over Venerable Wu's hand. Venerable Wu frowned and sized up the witchcraft venom on his hands in confusion. He muttered to himself, where exactly is the problem? Why can't these witchcraft venomous insects control the human body? Controlling the human body. Yi Qingluo heard Old Wu's words and roughly understood what Old Wu meant by the effect wasn't enough. Elder Wu wanted to use these witchcraft insects to completely control a person. To control it like a person. He was no different from his usual self. However, when the witchcraft goo entered the little girl's body, the little girl's entire state was totally like a wild beast. To be more accurate, Old Wu's motive was to make use of the witchcraft insects to create puppets. Chapter 46-49. Previously. Didn't the Palace of Darkness use the forbidden curse to create a batch of undead puppets? Why did they still need the witchcraft family's witchcraft master to create puppets? If she didn't guess wrongly, that young man earlier should be the one who was placed beside Venerable Wu. His motive was to urge Venerable Wu to complete the witchcraft. From that young man's anxious look, he should be someone from the Palace of Darkness, urging them anxiously. Yi Qingluo muttered to herself for a moment. Using the teleportation secret technique, he quietly disappeared from the courtyard. She followed the young man's trail. The young man dragged a few young ladies and threw them into the house in the neighboring courtyard. Just as she got nearer, Yi Qingluo heard a lady's woo-woo-woo sounds coming from the entire house. Apparently, these were the young ladies used to test the spell. After the young man threw the few of them into the house, he locked the door and quietly walked towards another corner. The man's expression was cautious, as though he was afraid that the old lady would see him. He kept a close eye on his back, in case anyone suddenly appeared. He reached that corner. The man knocked on the wall. Very quickly, a black-cloaked man from the Palace of Darkness appeared in front of the man. The man lowered his voice. Venerable Wu's witchcraft has failed and needs to be refined again. That black-cloaked man was slightly displeased. Need to delay again? His lordship is rather anxious. If it is delayed any longer, I'm afraid his lordship will be angry. The young man pursed his lips tightly, as his face was filled with fear towards his lordship. I know his lordship is anxious, but Venerable Wu's character, his lordship should know that if it is not to her satisfaction, she will refine it again and again. The black-cloaked man's tone changed, as he spoke in an unquestionable tone. No matter what, within 3 days, you must let me show you the results. The young man revealed a bitter expression. With Venerable Wu's character, how can we urge her? Don't you know how to please her? At most, we'll just convince her on the bed. The black-cloaked man sneered, as though he was disdainful. Following that, the cloak shook. Then it disappeared before the young man's eyes. The young man's expression was distressed, as he clenched his fists in anger and frustration, as he punched the wall hard, until he calmed down the anger in his heart. Only then did the young man adjust the expression on his face, and once again headed towards the Magus Elder's courtyard. Yi Qingluo didn't follow up. The entire courtyard fell silent. Only then did she slowly appear and walk towards the room where the little girls were locked up. The room was filled with the sounds of women moaning and banging things. She glanced in the direction of the Venerable Wu and entered the house. There was not a single piece of furniture in the room. only a pile of young and beautiful women. After she entered the room, the women all looked at her in shock. When he found out that she wasn't tied up and there was nothing in her mouth, he felt a chill run down his spine. All of them wriggled their bodies and stared at her with widened eyes. It seemed to be asking for help. Yiqing Luo made a hush sound at them and grabbed the nearest lady, speaking in a low voice. I can save you, but you must cooperate. All the women nodded vigorously. Yiqing Luo's voice was deep as she said word by word. No matter how afraid you are, you'd better keep your mouth shut. If those people outside find out that you're trying to escape, you should be very clear about the consequences. Fear appeared in the eyes of the women as they nodded vigorously. Chapter 4650. Yiqing Luo removed the cloth from the lady's mouth. How did you get caught and brought here? Do you know the person who caught you? The lady's tears flowed down as she sobbed. We were caught. We don't know that man. What do you know? Yiqing Luo couldn't hear the lady sobbing clearly. Don't waste time on meaningless crying. If you want to escape safely, then make the best use of your time. Don't waste time. Whoever knows the situation, speak up now. Yiqing Luo's voice was filled with an indescribable majesty. It made all the ladies in the room so stunned that their sobbing became much softer. Until a lady whimpered as she moved towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo dropped the lady in her hands and walked towards that lady. She removed the cloth from the lady's mouth. What do you want to say? This lady was slightly different from the other ladies. The other ladies were crying till their eyes turned red. But this lady's eyelashes weren't wet at all. It wasn't fear in her eyes but hatred. We are all experimental subjects. The lady gritted her teeth and said, the person outside is Elder Wu from the witchcraft family. Rather than saying she is from the witchcraft family, you might as well say she was abandoned by them. Yiqing Luo roughly understood the lady's concise and comprehensive words. This lady's name was Wu Che. Yes, her surname was Wu, and she was also from the witchcraft family. But she was different from Elder Wu. Venerable Magus had once been chased out of the witchcraft family by the patriarch of the witchcraft family for refining a forbidden witchcraft goo. He was ordered to never step into the witchcraft family ever again. And Elder Wu, who was chased out of the witchcraft family, didn't feel that he was in the wrong. She joined the Nether Palace and used witchcraft to help the Nether Palace to do many harmful things. Hence, Wu Che, the daughter of the witchcraft family's leader, left the witchcraft family to help them clean up the mess. But unexpectedly, she was caught by Elder Wu. She was the first one who was caught in the room. Elder Wu and that young man had no intention to let her off. When the both of them were conversing, they had never avoided her. So Wu Che found out from their conversation. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness needed the shaman elder to refine a batch of puppets that could be controlled. Furthermore, they had to be extremely strong and destructive. Therefore, Elder Wu used witchcraft and started to refine the forbidden witchcraft. After the refinement, he needed a group of people to test the goo. Thus, young and beautiful girls were captured and used as goo test subjects. After listening to Wu Che's explanation, Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Since you're all test subjects, why are you still alive? Wu Che was the first person to be captured and brought into the room, but he was still alive. Wu Che shook his head. I don't know either. Perhaps I still have some value that can be used. Finishing her words, her hands clenched into fists as she looked at Yiqing Luo with eyes filled with hope. You can save everyone. As long as everyone leaves this place safely, I represent the witchcraft family to thank you for your life-saving grace. The entire room of ladies, upon hearing this sentence, were all touched and filled with hope as they looked at Yiqing Luo, crying out woo woo. Yiqing Luo looked around the room. There were about 30 or so women. If he wanted to save them all, it might be a little difficult. Everyone is a cultivator, so the chances of us escaping together is very high. Wu Che seemed to have seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. I still have quite a number of witchcraft on me. If Elder Wu and the rest want to stop us, I can deal with him. Chapter 4651. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips slightly as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be rippling with a faint glow. She didn't make a sound. But the ladies by the side were all panicking. One by one, they looked at Yiqing Luo pleadingly, anxiously trying to grab onto this last life-saving straw. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment as her breathing paused slightly. I can save you, but after you leave this house, the ending is entirely up to you. She didn't feel that she could bring 30 over ladies and escape from this place. She could save them. But whether they could leave or not, they could only depend on their own ability and fate. After getting the ladies' agreement, Yiqing Luo bent over and untied all their ropes. The ladies forced themselves to calm down. They moved their hands and feet which had been tied for a long time, then looked at Yiqing Luo resolutely. Thank you, miss, for saving our lives. If there's a chance, we will definitely repay you. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. Whether you can leave safely is still a problem. Elder Wu is now refining witchcraft in the courtyard next door. The rest is up to you. Saying that, she quietly approached the door, preparing to leave. Wu Che followed behind her. Miss, are you here to deal with Elder Wu? Why don't we join hands? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past her. I'm just passing by, saving them on the way. Wu Che didn't expect her to reply in this way as he was slightly stunned. And this stunned. Yiqing Luo had already walked out of the room. The other ladies had all fled the house. Whether those ladies could escape or not, this was not something Yiqing Luo could care about. Her vision looked towards Elder Wu's courtyard. Then she headed towards the courtyard. Wu Che followed up again, his face full of pleading. Miss, since you're willing to save everyone, you must be a kind-hearted person. Please help me. I can't beat her. Yiqing Luo replied very straightforwardly. If you're not Elder Wu's opponent, I can give you a piece of advice. Wu Che, what? Go back to the witchcraft family, and find someone with stronger ability to deal with her. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Can you move aside now? Wu Che pursed her lips and a tearful expression appeared on her beautiful face. I don't want to go back to the witchcraft family. I want to prove that I'm about to inherit the witchcraft family not because my father is the leader of the witchcraft family, but because of my ability. So I must complete this mission. I want to capture Elder Wu and bring her back. Wu Che stubbornly raised her head, her beautiful eyes focused. Miss, as long as you're willing to help me, it's equivalent to helping the entire witchcraft family. The witchcraft family will fulfill any request you have. The woman's tone was sincere. Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly. Her smile deepened and she slowly shook her head. I'm sorry, I really can't help you with this. She walked past Wu Che and walked away. Miss, I beg you. Wu Che's eyes reddened as he pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Just as Wu Che was about to touch Yiqing Luo, a dazzling red glow emitted from Yiqing Luo's body. Wu Che's entire body was struck by the red light, and he fell to the ground. A voodoo goo worm about the size of a fingernail landed beside her feet. Wu Che's face turned pale, and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. She frantically climbed up from the ground and stretched out her hand in an attempt to grab that witchcraft worm. But just as she moved, a ray of black light struck over. That witchcraft worm instantly split into pieces. Wu Che was so shocked that she shrank back and raised her head, staring at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. You, why did you suddenly attack me? Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 46-52. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked down at her condescendingly. That pair of long and narrow eyes glowed. An eerie chill seeped out from it. Perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's imposing manner was too overbearing. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's gaze was too terrifying. Wu Che felt as if an ice-cold venomous snake had crawled across her back, before slowly wrapping around her neck. That gaze was extremely horrifying. Wu Che's face turned slightly pale as her slender fingers clenched into a fist as she stared at her unblinkingly. Miss. If you look at me like that, I will be afraid. If you know that you're afraid, then don't come over to court death. Yiqing Luo looked at her indifferently without any expression on her face. Wu Che shrank her neck in fear, as she felt an inexplicable chill in her heart. But when she saw that Yiqing Luo was about to leave, she gritted her teeth as she spoke out timidly. "Miss, I only hope that you can help me." "No other meaning." Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused slightly, looking at the lady who was sprawled on the ground with a pale face and a timid look. She found it funny. "Do you think that everyone is an idiot?" Wu Che was stunned as her petite body trembled unconsciously. "You? What do you mean? Don't you feel tired after acting for so long?" Yiqing Luo's gaze was calm as she looked at her. "Wu Che, don't think too highly of yourself." Wu Che sat on the ground as she lowered her head for a long time. After a moment of silence, she then slowly stood up from the ground. She raised her eyes to look at Yiqing Luo. Her face was no longer filled with the pleading expression but was calm. Wu Che frowned as she stared at Yiqing Luo as though she wanted to stare at her. "How did you know?" "Because you're stupid," Yiqing Luo replied impolitely. Looking at the lady's expression changed. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened as though she was ridiculing. "Your story is simply too lousy and full of loopholes. How can anyone believe it?" "What loopholes?" Wu Che pursed her lips as her expression turned ugly. "I'm not lying. Old Wu was indeed chased out by the witchcraft family." "Yes, this is indeed not a lie." Yiqing Luo simply didn't intend to leave as she leaned her back against the door and crossed her arms in front of her chest. "But you've left out a point. You are not the daughter of some witchcraft family head. You're also someone who was chased out by the witchcraft family head." "No, I'm not." Wu Che's expression changed abruptly as he bellowed at Yiqing Luo malevolently. "I am the clan leader's daughter. I am the future successor of the witchcraft family. It was those people from the witchcraft family who wanted to deprive me of my rights. For the sake of power, they framed me and Grandma. It's them, it's their fault." This angry roar. The surrounding girls who were quietly trying to escape were all startled. All of them stared blankly at Wu Che and Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision swept past those ladies. He took a step forward. He stood in front of Wu Che. That petite figure emitted an oppressive might that shocked people's hearts. Yiqing Luo's gaze was like the frost that had condensed into ice. "I don't really care what your identity is." Yiqing Luo met Wu Che's slightly crazed eyes without blinking as her pink lips curled into a faint smile. "Do you know where your biggest problem lies?" "Where?" Wu Che stared at her maliciously. "You said. You're the first person to be locked in the room." Yiqing Luo's slender fingers stroked her chin lightly. "Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 46-53. Wu Che. What's wrong with that? After experiencing the death of so many Tescu specimens, batch after batch of newcomers came in. You actually don't have the slightest bit of fear. Yiqing Luo shook her head and sighed. Don't use the excuse that you're the daughter of the head of the witchcraft clan, and you're already used to witchcraft as an excuse. Because all the ladies here are not weak cultivators. These profound practitioners are so terrified that they're crying. As for you, you're too calm. Yiqing Luo's gaze suddenly turned sharp. Your composure. Either you have the confidence to make a comeback, so you don't need to worry. Or you are very clear that old Wu will not hurt you, so you have nothing to fear. That sharp gaze caused Wu Che's body to weaken. However, after you escaped from that house, you directly asked for my help, hoping that I could help you capture old Wu. The smile on Yiqing Luo's lips was like a blooming rose, revealing a seductive charm. This means that you don't have the confidence to make a comeback. That is to say, the reason why you are not afraid is the latter. Wu Che was forced to stick close to the door. His breathing was short and rapid. Ha, you're quite meticulous. Wu Che gritted her teeth and sneered. Yiqing Luo slowly withdrew her oppressive aura, and between her brows, a layer of laziness once again spread out. You still have a fatal loophole. She chuckled and waved the feather fan at Wu Che's chest. Since Elder Wu knows that you are the daughter of the head of the witchcraft family, how could he not search you? How could they let you plant witchcraft on your body? Wu Che had said. I still have a lot of witchcraft goo on me that I can deal with Elder Wu. She probably only felt that there was something wrong with Wu Che. He would not associate Wu Che with Venerable Wu. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose. You and old Wu are originally together, right? You disguised yourself as a captured victim just to keep an eye on those girls. In case someone like me appears and rescues them, right? Wu Che leaned against the wall bit by bit and stood up straight. She smiled and said, You're very smart. Yiqing Luo chuckled. You're flattering me. Wu Che's smile became a little more evil. However, you are too confident. Do you think that I left you here just to listen to your nonsense? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. There wasn't a hint of panic on her face, but instead she laughed. Then why do you think I'm here, talking nonsense with you? Wu Che's complacent smile froze at the corners of his mouth. She seemed to understand something, and her expression suddenly changed, fiercely pushing Yiqing Luo away. He looked around. There was no sign of a woman in the surroundings. Not a single one of the 30 or so young girls who had been captured had escaped. You. Wu Che pointed at Yiqing Luo furiously. It was her. She had deliberately attracted her attention. Then, he created an opportunity for those girls to escape. Wu Che bit into the pig's fingertips and angrily rebuked, But you can't escape either. This is not up to you to decide. Yiqing Luo smiled and blinked her eyes. Then he suddenly took a step back. In other words, it was in the time it took for her to retreat. A profound wave from the corner of the wall, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, directly pressed down. Boom. A loud sound was heard. The place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier collapsed into a huge deep pit. And Yiqing Luo. At this moment, she had already retreated to the top of a wall. Chapter 46-54. Her fluttering red dress, under the surging profound wave, was like a dancing flame, blossoming with dazzling sparks. Her jet-black long hair swayed with the wind, and in front of Wu Che, a stooped figure appeared. A black cloak covered that small figure. On the other side, stood that young man from secluded palace. Grandma. Wu Che lowered his head as he pursed his lips in guilt. I'm sorry, Grandma, I let them escape. Elder Wu stretched out his hand as he patted Wu Che's head. Chair, don't worry, those test subjects will not be able to escape. Her tone was very certain. After that, when he looked at Yiqing Luo, his sinister eyes were filled with ridicule. Young lady, you are really daring, single-handedly, daring to come to my turf to snatch people. That gaze was like a poisonous snake. It opened its scarlet-red mouth, as though in the next moment, it would bite her neck. When she was face to face with Elder Wu, Yiqing Luo felt an enormous pressure from Elder Wu. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely, but on the surface she maintained her calm, as her red lips curled slightly, smiling indifferently. Who told you that I am alone? When Elder Wu heard that, his gaze swept across the surroundings. Then he looked at the young man. The young man shook his head. There is no one else in the courtyard. Elder Wu then shifted his gaze back to Yiqing Luo. Young lady, this kind of lie, it will be seen through. If you are not alone, then how many people are there? Yiqing Luo took a look behind her. I have so many people here, can't you see? Would I be so silly to come here alone to act like a hero? Elder Wu's expression changed slightly, as his sinister gaze stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Young lady, don't play tricks. Her black cloak suddenly fluttered. A thick profound yin qi suddenly attacked Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo leaped, as the feather fan on her fingertips rotated, as a torrent surged out. Following that, her figure retreated 2 steps. Bam! 2 profound waves collided in midair. It shook the surrounding buildings. As it rumbled, the profound waves brushed past, creating intense sparks. At the moment when it exploded, Yiqing Luo was already standing at a place outside the attack range. Venerable Wu's expression changed slightly. He looked up at the young girl on the wall, and was secretly surprised. This girl. His strength was actually not weak. It was no wonder that Che would suffer a loss at her hands. Venerable Wu glanced sideways at the young man beside him. The man understood and pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as the feather fan in her hands shot out profound rays. Boundless profound light flashed across her fingertips. The young man's ability wasn't weak, but he totally couldn't touch Yi Qing Luo at all. Elder Wu shielded Wu Che behind him and glanced sideways at her. When did that woman come over? Grandma. She is. Wu Che stared at the young lady in red. His lips trembled as he said word by word. She is the one whom Lord mentioned. Yi Qing Luo. She was dressed in red and had jet black hair. She was devastatingly beautiful. A red fan, twirling at the tip of one's finger, could defeat a magnificent army. No wonder. That girl could see through her lies at a glance. No wonder. That young girl, even though she knew that Ji Yinshu wanted her to stay, she still stayed fearlessly. Because that young girl was Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo, whom even Lord was unable to gain any advantage over. Elder Wu frowned as he raised his head to look at the young girl who had already suppressed the young man. She is Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 46-55. Wu Che held Elder Wu's hand tightly. Grandma, we must be careful. She has people from the witchcraft family around her. Earlier I wanted to take the opportunity to poison her, but she actually destroyed my witchcraft worm. Generally speaking, the witchcraft worm that they refined was indestructible. How could it be destroyed so easily? But earlier, Yi Qing Luo only used her feather fan and tapped it lightly. Her witchcraft worm had completely exploded. Elder Wu's brows sunk slightly as if he thought of something and said to Wu Che, "Go to the courtyard where Grandma refined the witchcraft worm, and bring that pot over." Wu Che was stunned. "But Grandma, the test subject has already run away." Elder Wu's gaze fell onto the young man who had been kicked to the ground by Yi Qing Luo as he smiled sinisterly. "Isn't there another one over there? Isn't he Grandma's boy toy?" Wu Che thought that his grandma was very fond of that man. He had not expected that. Grandma was actually willing to use him as a test subject. Elder Wu caressed Wu Che's face nonchalantly. "He's just a lackey sent by the secluded palace to monitor us. If he dies, someone else will take over." Wu Che nodded and headed towards the courtyard. After sending the young man flying with a kick, Yi Qing Luo's gaze fell onto Wu Che. The direction that Wu Che was heading towards was the direction where Elder Wu refined the witchcraft worm. Just one look and Yi Qing Luo already knew Elder Wu's plan. She scoffed lightly as she slowly landed on the ground. Her charming eyes stared at Elder Wu. "Trying to use your witchcraft worm to deal with me? Are you sure that your semi-finished product will succeed? Young lady, I know you are related to the Miaogu family. But in terms of witchcraft poison, the Miaogu family is definitely not as good as the witchcraft family." When Elder Wu mentioned this sentence, his head subconsciously raised slightly. This also showed her confidence in witchcraft worm. Yi Qing Luo's fingers lightly tapped on her fingertips as she replied indifferently, "But you are merely someone who was chased out by the witchcraft family, so you are no longer one of them. What happens between the witchcraft family and the Miaogu family has nothing to do with you." These words caused Elder Wu's sinister eyes to overflow with an eerie chill. "Little girl, you're still too inexperienced to provoke me." Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at old Wu's sinister face under his cloak, as a meaningful look flashed past her eyes. He then probed. "Does the witchcraft family know that you are working for the Palace of Darkness? Or, the witchcraft family kicked you out because you worked for the Palace of Darkness?" The person behind the scenes of the Dark Shadow Palace was best at passing down forbidden techniques to the people he wanted to use, to achieve their own goals. As for this sorcerer elder, he had once used forbidden sorcery to refine sorcery. Could there be any connection between them? "Little girl, are you trying to trick me? Even if I tell you, what can you do?" Venerable Wu laughed coldly, as if he was mocking her with disdain. Venerable Wu was rather magnanimous as he said straightforwardly, "Yes, the heart-devouring goo in your brother Renlong's body was planted by me. Other than me, no one can remove the goo in his body." Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly constricted. Her petite body also tensed up. She wanted to find out the problem regarding Long Yunjian from old Wu's mouth. The goo in Ajan's body. It was planted by old Wu. Initially, when Miaoji helped her to find out news regarding the heart-devouring goo, she had told her, "Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 46-56. If she wanted to detoxify the heart-devouring goo on Ajan. To detoxify the goo, she needed the person who planted it. Which meant she must let Elder Wu help Ajan to detoxify the goo. What Elder Wu said wasn't wrong. Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased slightly as her long and narrow eyes swept up a storm. Why do you want to do this? The young lady's voice was strangely icy cold. Elder Wu smirked sinisterly. Who can reject his lord's request? Elder Wu paused for a moment as his gaze towards Yi Qingluo was filled with contempt and ridicule. Young lady, don't think too highly of yourself. In the end, the reason why the people around you are in this state is all because of you. His lord's target is you, so. Long Yunjian was planted with the heart-devouring goo and had his memories wiped. Everything was all because of you. If it wasn't for you, how could Long Yunjian possibly experience all these painful things? Elder Wu kept on laughing sinisterly. Every single word that came out of his mouth was like a sharp silver needle, piercing into Yi Qingluo's heart. I remember that human dragon. Back then when I planted the goo on him, he was still a little human dragon, and had always been by his lord's side. Later on, that little human dragon suddenly disappeared. Even the heart-devouring goo which I planted on him could not sense it. I thought that little human dragon had offended his lord and was killed by his lord. I'd not expected. His lord had wiped away his memories and threw him into the lower realm, Nirvana, to let a little human dragon Nirvana, with a brand new identity, to grow until today. Do you know what's the most painful thing? After old Wu asked this question, he looked mockingly at Yi Qingluo, whose expression had changed. The sinister smile on his sinister face became even more obvious. The most painful thing is, Long Yunjian remembers everything that you had experienced in the past. Remembers the feelings between you. But he had to pick up his weapon and face you. Yi Qingluo's petite figure shook violently as she took a step back. The expression on her face was deathly pale. Her slender fingers clenched tightly into a fist. She wanted to suppress the emotions that were raging in her chest. However, she couldn't control herself at all. He had always been proud of his ability to control his emotions, but at this moment, he was completely controlled by his emotions. He had to admit it. Every word that Venerable Wu had said pierced into the point that she was concerned about in the depths of her heart. Old Wu looked at Yi Qingluo's expression as he laughed sarcastically. I heard from Lord that you value friendship the most, right? So, shouldn't you obediently let him kill you in order for your brother to complete his mission? As she said that, she raised her withered black hand and touched her half-sunken chin. Or should I say, you killed that little dragon. This way, it can be considered as freeing him, and freeing yourself. Bang. The moment the old Wu's voice fell, the girl raised her glowing flame fan, and the sharp edge of the wall suddenly exploded. Ripples appeared in the air. The attack was powerful and domineering. The Venerable Wu arched his body and leaped up like a bat. The wave brushed past Venerable Wu and landed on the ground. A huge black hole was blasted open. You shut up. The young lady's voice was hoarse, revealing endless viciousness. She stood in the air as her red dress fluttered in the wind. Her slender fair hand held the glowing flame fan as she pointed it at old Wu. I will not give up on my brother. And I will not give up on myself. This book came from Chapter 46-57. No matter what Ajan chooses, I will not hurt him, and I will not let him hurt any of my brothers. He is my brother. I understand him more than any of you. If he really made a move and hurt anyone in the world group, that would be the real pain for him. No matter what you want to use Ajan for, I will not let you get what you want. Yi Qingluo's eyes glowed with determination. Every single word was from the bottom of her heart. Elder Wu listened to Yi Qingluo's words. He went into a blank for a moment before he sneered. A young lady is indeed a young lady, still believing in the brotherhood. Her eyes and brows seemed to be filled with a large expanse of darkness. A sinister aura spread out in her eyes. Wu Che had already moved that basin over. Elder Wu snatched the basin and stretched out his hand to grab a handful of it. Following that, the black profound Yin Qi encircled the witchcraft worm and led it directly onto the young man who had been kicked onto the ground by Yiqing Luo. The man's eyes widened as he looked at Elder Wu in terror, his eyes filled with disbelief. After the witchcraft worm entered his body, the young man cried out miserably as he stretched out his hand towards Elder Wu, pleading for help. But Elder Wu didn't show any signs of reluctance or pity. Instead, it was a heartless coldness. Very quickly, the man was like the first young lady who tested the worm, as his entire body turned black. That was one after another witchcraft worm as it started to spread out in his body. Ah. The young man's mouth started to emit a beastly howl. His voice was hysterical, as though he was a trapped beast. His body started to climb up from the ground bit by bit. He was as stiff as a mummy. Just like the young lady earlier, both his hands pounded the ground hard, as though he was venting something. This scene caused Wu Che to shrink back behind Elder Wu. Elder Wu patted Wu Che's back lightly as his lips curled into a sinister sneer. "Young lady, let me show you the power of witchcraft worms." She gave the order. That mummy-like man swiftly pounced towards Yiqing Luo. His jet-black body was filled with tiny witchcraft worms. The man's attacks were disorganized, but they were extremely destructive. They exchanged blows. The feeling he gave Yiqing Luo was a wild beast that had escaped its restraints was attacking its prey. The man seemed to have gone mad. After a dozen moves, Yiqing Luo had completely confirmed this matter. The man didn't even touch the corner of her clothes. The entire courtyard was smashed into smithereens. His destructive power was frighteningly strong. Yiqing Luo retreated to the side of the roof, which was still intact, as she squinted her eyes, searching for the fatal weakness. Elder Wu raised his head and looked at her. His face was filled with a sinister smile. "Little girl, you are so loyal. I really want to try. If I put these witchcraft insects on your brothers, what will happen to you?" Elder Wu raised his head and looked at her. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as her 5 fingers gripped the glower flame fan tightly. "I will not give you this chance." "That's hard to say." Elder Wu's eyes lit up as if he had found an interesting toy. Then 5 withered fingers stretched out from the cloak. She seemed to have touched something in the air. Then she pulled it with all her might. "Before this, why don't you try? Are you able to harden your heart to deal with these innocent women?" Looking at Elder Wu's actions, listening to Elder Wu's words. This book came from Chapter 4658. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly quivered, as though she had realized something. She quickly looked around. As expected, the next moment, numerous slender figures flew back from the outside of the wall. After that, one after another, they fell onto the ground. They were the young ladies who had escaped earlier. After falling onto the ground, some of the ladies swiftly climbed up from the ground. When they turned their heads and saw Elder Wu, their expressions suddenly changed. You, what's the matter? Why are we back? Haven't we already escaped?" The ladies were extremely shocked as they climbed up from the ground. Their gazes towards Elder Wu were filled with fear, as they were shocked, as they turned around and tried to escape. But the next moment, Elder Wu's cloak shook. They only felt something cold seeping into their bodies. And then, they lost all consciousness. Yiqing Luo, who was on the roof, stared downwards. Those young ladies had turned into a patch of pitch black. Each of them were like dried corpses as they stood up shakily. Her pupils slowly widened. The anger beneath her eyes was burning fiercely. Her slender fingers clenched tightly. His smooth and round fingertips were deeply embedded into his flesh, leaving behind large patches of half-arc marks. Elder Wu looked at Yiqing Luo mockingly, using words bit by bit to hook Yiqing Luo's heart. "Young lady, these ladies originally didn't need to die so early. But because of you, because of your own decision, because of your self-righteous self-confidence. Her voice deliberately lowered slowly, hoarse and sharp, but it had a bewitching feeling. Yiqing Luo. They all died because of you. It's you who caused their deaths, it's you who made them become like this. Elder Wu stuffed the basin back into Wu Chei's hands. After that, he raised both his hands. A thick profound yin qi lingered around her palms. Slowly turning into a thin line, it merged into those ladies' bodies. Then his arms moved. Those ladies flew towards Yiqing Luo. Pitch-black faces, stiff like dried corpses. All of them made Yiqing Luo's body stiffen slightly as she suddenly retreated backwards. Yiqing Luo, you're such a sentimental and righteous person. Facing these people who had turned into such a state because of you. Are you able to be ruthless? Venerable Wu's tone was filled with mockery and ridicule. As though he was mocking Yiqing Luo. Would she not dare to retaliate because of the so-called friendship? Facing those women, they attacked like wild beasts. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she speedily evaded. The glowing flame fan at his fingertips swept up a powerful current. The dazzling profound waves were like streaks of red light that drew gorgeous arcs as she circulated them. Her hand moved forward. The devouring flame fan flew out from his palm. It formed a whirlwind in midair. The red arc also quickly swam among the women. Quickly they surrounded the women. Old Wu apparently didn't expect that Yiqing Luo would really make a move. However, he was stunned for a while. She laughed out loudly. The affectionate and loyal Yiqing Luo, in the end, is merely a greedy and cowardly person. Facing these grotesque subjects that became like this because of you, you actually have no remorse at all. Ha ha ha. She laughed loudly, as though proving Yiqing Luo's cold-blooded heartlessness. She laughed extremely complacently. He could tell. Elder Wu had once suffered a setback, because of the so-called affectionate and loyal people. Chapter 46-59. The young lady's slender fingers closed the glower flame fan abruptly. The majestic dark force exploded with a loud bang. Those ladies who were entangled by the arc of light. They were instantly blown away by the profound wave, and fell onto the ground. In just a moment, they turned into a pile of white bones. Her actions had no hesitation at all. There was not the slightest bit of emotion on that absolutely gorgeous face. After that, the young lady slowly shot her charming eyes towards Elder Wu. Her pink lips curled into a ridiculing arc. The young lady's clear voice clearly entered Elder Wu's ears. Your method in my eyes is too low level. Did you think that just based on a few words of yours, you can bewitch me? Her smile deepened, like a peach blossom, elegant and rippling. You seem to think too highly of me. I don't feel that I'm the one who caused their deaths. That overbearing aura pressed downwards. Elder Wu's expression sunk, as he couldn't believe that he had miscalculated. Don't quibble over your actions. Elder Wu gritted his teeth and roared. If it wasn't for your meddling and letting these ladies go, they would at least be able to live for a long period of time. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. They wanted to escape, so I merely lent them a hand. After they leave, their life and death will depend on their own luck. What has it got to do with me? She had saved them, so she had to arrange everything clearly? Helping them to leave that house was a favor. What happened next was their own life. What would happen in the end? It had nothing to do with her. Elder Wu had turned them into puppets controlled by the witchcraft worm. That was their fate. Endangering her life. She took action and killed them. It was merely survival of the fittest. There was nothing to be soft-hearted about. Her eyes glowed faintly as her lips curled into a smile. I'm afraid Elder Wu didn't hear the mastermind from Secluded Palace talking about me. I have never been a good person. Elder Wu apparently didn't expect his plan to fail. Instantly, he flew into a rage out of humiliation as he directed the other ladies, and that young man to pounce towards Yiqing Luo, while she grabbed a bunch of witchcraft worm in her hand as her black cloak moved. She was like a bat as she scurried into midair, taking the opportunity to attack Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was already prepared for Old Witch's actions. He opened his glowing flame fan, and slashed away the puppets controlled by the witchcraft goo. He then leaped into the air. So Gu reading URL. Chapter 4660. That's Granny underestimating the enemy. Elder Wu stared sinisterly at the person who had already disappeared. The expression on his face was treacherous and no one could tell what he was thinking about. Wu Che opened his mouth, but on seeing Elder Wu's expression, he shut his mouth. Elder Wu's fingers tightened bit by bit as he clenched his teeth and sneered. Next time, I will let her know the power of witchcraft. Yi Qingluo's figure had just left that courtyard and landed on the ground. Her slender waist was hooked by a pair of strong arms and brought into an embrace. An elegant sandalwood fragrance entered her nostrils. Yi Qingluo's lips curled up as her arms encircled the man's neck behind her. You're here. Mo Xian pinched the young lady's waist. Did you have fun? When did you find me? Yi Qingluo's lips curled into an arc as she leaned forward and touched his thin lips lightly. Mo Xian held the young lady tightly in his arms. It was when you were preaching to that old woman. The man's strength was a little strong. Yi Qingluo could feel his displeasure right now. She used her head to bump against his chest as she beamed. Don't worry, I didn't talk too much with Zhu Wu Xian. You have his scent on you. The man's muffled voice floated down from the top of her head. Yi Qingluo hugged his waist as her chin rested on his chest as she raised her head. You can't blame me for this. He suddenly appeared and abducted me away. Before I could even react, I was already brought here. Along the way, I will definitely be tainted with his scent. Saying that, her little body rubbed against the man's arms for a while. All right, now my body is filled with your scent. That tone was filled with the feeling of coaxing his own war pet. Mo Xian suddenly locked her waist tightly, not allowing her to move. Stop rubbing. The man leaned against her neck as his hot breath spurted out. His voice was filled with a sexy low charm. Yi Qingluo blinked as her long and narrow eyes overflowed with teasing. Are you sure you still want to hug me? Mo Xian bit her ear. If you continue, I won't be courteous anymore. Yi Qingluo giggled, but still laid in his arms obediently, until the man picked her up by the waist. Yi Qingluo laid in his arms and pinched his face. It's done so quickly? Whether I'm fast or not, you don't know. Mo Xian bit her finger. It was very light and ticklish. Yi Qingluo raised her head at him. Are you a dog? Keep biting me? Mo Xian hugged her tightly and leapt up, steadily landing on little Nine's back. He still did not let go of her. He continued to hold her in his arms. As he lowered his head, his low and hoarse voice was transmitted into Yi Qingluo's ears. Just you wait. She gnashed her teeth and threatened in a low, charming voice. This made Yi Qingluo smile even more brightly. The two of them were laughing and fooling around. Little Nine sent them back to the old city. Xiao Jin and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Yi Qingluo safe and sound. Yi Qingluo inquired about the situation earlier. That's about it. After she was kidnapped by Zhu Wuxin, Mo Xian flew into a rage. The Grand Elder and Long Yunjian quickly retreated. Mo Xian followed Yi Qingluo's breathing and headed over. After the few of them settled those people from Secluded Palace and the Ren family's guards, they returned back to the Gu residence. The Gu residence was after all barbaric Bloodbone King's turf, and there were Gu residence's secret guards stationed there. Even if Ren Jianying tried to attack the Gu residence several times, she was totally unable to do so. Yi Qingluo found a chair in the main hall to sit down and immediately waved to Miao Xianxian. Xianxian, come over for a moment. If the anti-theft chapter was unable to be refreshed automatically, she could try moving the book out of the bookshelf and then add it again, and it would be refreshed. Moi. This chapter ends viewing starting episode Zue new chapter section. Please arrive Tang Ka shop. Mobile address. Chapter 4661. Miao Xianxian sat beside Ren Jiaming. Hearing Yi Qingluo's voice, she immediately jumped up and jogged towards her. Miao Xuanxuan's identity had been exposed because of Ren Jianying. The people from the secluded palace naturally wouldn't let her off. Hence, Miao Xianxian followed Ren Jiaming to the Gu residence. Yi Qingluo held Miao Xuanxuan's hand and looked at the young lady's bright eyes without blinking. She smiled. How much do you know about the witchcraft family? Miao Xianxian tilted her head and pondered for a while. Not much, I've heard about it from the elders in the family. Then have you heard of Elder Wu? Yi Qingluo's eyes sunk when she mentioned the two words Elder Wu. Miao Xianxian nodded. I've heard of it. This Elder Wu is not only famous in the witchcraft family, even our Miaogu family has heard of him. Tell me about it. Yi Qingluo rubbed the young lady's fluffy little head. Miao Xianxian seriously pondered over the news she had heard before. I heard. Elder Wu was the most outstanding witchcraft master in the witchcraft family, and was highly regarded. Even the Miaogu family had heard of her genius name. But later on, it seemed that something big happened to the witchcraft family. All the equipment used to refine witchcraft and those reared witchcraft were all burnt clean. Yi Qingluo roughly guessed the second half of the story. Then the witchcraft family found out that the person who set the fire was that outstanding witchcraft master. Elder Wu? Yes. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes lit up. Sister, how did you know? I guessed it. Yi Qingluo pulled Miao Xianxian to sit beside her. Continue. Miao Xianxian sat down obediently and continued. Sister, you are half right. The head of the witchcraft family didn't just discover Venerable Wu and set fire to the witchcraft family, she also discovered the reason why she did it. She intentionally lowered her voice and asked mysteriously, Sister, do you know the reason? Yi Qingluo raised her brows. Because she wanted to use the forbidden witchcraft to refine witchcraft. Miao Xianxian immediately drooped her head. Sister, how do you know everything? I guessed it. Yi Qingluo rubbed her chin. No matter where it is, the so-called forbidden technique will always be called as forbidden technique. That is a forbidden technique. To make an aristocratic family, to chase the most outstanding person out of the family, it can only be that person has violated the family's taboo. Miao Xuanxuan's head was still drooping, and her tone was not as cheerful as before. Yes, Elder Wu was chased out of the witchcraft family by the clan leader for refining the forbidden witchcraft spell. He ordered her to never return to the witchcraft family again, and stripped of her surname. Stripped of his surname? Yi Qingluo's brows furrowed slightly. If his surname was stripped, then why was that person still called Old Wu? Yes, the patriarch of the witchcraft family was worried that Venerable Wu would use the forbidden witchcraft technique to do something outrageous after leaving the witchcraft family, and affect the reputation of the witchcraft family. Thus, he forbade Venerable Wu from mentioning the witchcraft family after leaving. Miao Xianxian replied. Yi Qingluo seemed to have thought of something as she asked again. Then when Old Wu left the witchcraft family, did he bring along a young lady named Wu Che? Miao Xianxian thought for a while and shook her head. I've never heard of this name. Chapter 46-62. Yi Qingluo propped her chin as she pondered deeply for a moment. Qiao Jin looked at her. Why did you suddenly think of asking about witchcraft families? Yan Xiaoyi's eyes brightened slightly. Could it be that you already know who poisoned Captain? Previously, Mo Yuing had told everyone about Long Yunjian. Everyone also knew that the goo poison in Long Yunjian's body was not an ordinary goo poison, but a kind of goo that was refined using witchcraft. Yi Qingluo mentioned the witchcraft family at this moment. It was definitely related to Long Yunjian. As expected, Yi Qingluo nodded her head slightly. However, her expression was extremely grim. I did see a goo master from the Dark Abyss Palace, but I can't be sure that she's the one who poisoned Ajan. Yi Qingluo's vision fell onto Miao Xianxian as she said word by word. That witchcraft master's name is called Old Wu. Miao Xianxian was stunned. The people surrounding them were also stunned. Yi Qingluo's eyes sunk slightly. Venerable Wu admitted everything too calmly. In addition to Miao Xuanxuan's words, she even started to suspect if the witch goo master called Venerable Wu was really Venerable Wu. Those who were chased out by the witchcraft aristocratic families could no longer use their former names, and they had to be stripped of the surname witchcraft. However, Elder Wu and Wu Che had openly adopted the surname Wu. It doesn't matter if that Elder Wu is the one who cast the voodoo spell on Captain. We have to find him sooner or later. Yan Shaoyi pursed her lips and stood up suddenly. Aren't we rushing to the land domain? Let's go to the earth domain first, and let Xianxian return to the Miaogu family to ask about what happened in the past. Ren Jianying of the Ren family was no longer around. On the surface, the entire heaven realm was in the hands of Ren Jianying, but in reality, it was in the hands of the Palace of Darkness. Ren Jianying wanting to attack the land domain was also the idea of the Palace of Darkness. Even if Ren Jianying wasn't there, the heaven realm's plan to attack the earth realm and invade the earth realm would not change. They still had to go to the earth realm to stop the Palace of Darkness plan. Yi Qingluo nodded her head as she raised her hand and rubbed Miao Xuanxuan's little head. Then let's return to the earth domain first. As for the Miaogu family's side, I need you to inquire about it. After all, the Miaogu family was a force in the earth domain. There was still a huge gap between them and the witchcraft family. In addition, the witchcraft clan was also proficient in witchcraft. The Miaogu clan was no match for the witchcraft clan. It was better to go to the Miaogu clan first and figure out the true identity of that Magus elder before making a decision. Earth domain. Ren Jiaming heard their conversation and his expression congealed slightly as he stood up. Great bone. Yi Qingluo, have you forgotten something? The gazes of Qiao Jin and the others swiftly turned towards Ren Jiaming. Yi Qingluo waved her hand. We'll talk later. Ren Jiaming pursed his lips, glanced at them, then turned around and left the main hall. When he reached the door, he stopped and said with his back facing her, I'll wait for you outside. Yi Qingluo stood up. Go and prepare first. We will set off for the earth domain tomorrow. Huang Fusheng and Gu Zixi had long wanted to visit everyone in the earth domain. After exchanging greetings, they held hands and left. Yan Shaoyi looked outside the door and looked at Yi Qingluo. He doesn't want to leave the heaven realm? Yi Qingluo's brows drooped slightly. It's not that he doesn't want to, but he can't. Chapter 46-63. Yan Shaoyi clicked her tongue. Look at his nervous look, you'd better hurry over. Yi Qingluo bent down and planted a kiss on the man's lips. Then she put a hand on his shoulder and straightened up. Wait for me. Di Zun, who had been soothed by the kiss, didn't get jealous again. Yi Qingluo stroked its fur and walked out of the main hall. Ren Jiaming stood at the door with his back against it. He lowered his head and covered half of his face. However, it could be seen that he was not in a good mood. Yi Qingluo walked forward and said, I will not forget about saving Old Man's song. Then you're going to the earth domain? Ren Jiaming hurriedly followed behind him. If you go to the earth domain, what will happen to Tsang Lao? It was until they walked out of the main hall's courtyard when Yi Qingluo stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at him. The young girl's expression was very grave. Her usually enchanting and wanton charming eyes were currently as deep as a deep pool. Ren Jiaming, you should have heard what I said last time very clearly. You should also understand that Old Man Song's poisoning isn't ordinary. He won't wake up just because you say so. Ren Jiaming's body stiffened slightly. He clenched his fists tightly, and his handsome face darkened. I know, but you can't leave him alone. It's not that I don't care, but I don't have the ability to wake him up yet. Yi Qingluo's eyes became even more gloomy. It can be said that compared to you, I hope that Old Man Song can be well. But the prerequisite for Old Man Song to awaken is to gather all 5 Tsang Shui artifacts. She currently had the Azure Aqua light chain from Ren Jianying. There were only 4 of them. He was also missing a pair of earrings. Ren Jiaming did not know what to say. After a long while, he finally lowered his head and pursed his lips. Then, when do you plan to return? Everything depends on whether the Earth Realm is able to defend against the Nether Palace's attack. Yi Qingluo shook her head. The war between the realms cannot be explained in a few words. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness wanted to invade the land. That would depend on whether the heavenly axiom would allow such a thing that destroyed the balance of the realm to happen. Furthermore, although the Earth Realm was below the Heaven Realm, moreover, the difference in strength was huge. However, there were many capable people in the Earth domain. If the Heaven Realm wanted to fight this battle, it would not be that easy. I'll stay in the heavenly realm and take care of the old. Ren Jianming clenched his fists even tighter. But I hope that after you return, you will wholeheartedly help the old. I know. Yi Qingluo's words had just landed. Ren Jianming turned around and left. Yi Qingluo didn't open her mouth to call him. After remaining silent for a moment, she turned around, intending to return to the main hall to look for Dmo Xian. As soon as she put on her disguise, she crashed into the man's arms. Dmo Xian's hand circled around her waist. Are you done? Are you eavesdropping? He just left and you came out, such a coincidence? Yi Qingluo raised her head suspiciously as she squinted her eyes at him. Dmo Xian's expression did not change. Coincidence? As if I'd believe you, you're so bad. Yi Qingluo pouted her lips, not believing his nonsense. Dmo Xian's brows creased slightly as he looked at him. Rotten old man? Yi Qingluo. She just felt that it was convenient to say. She didn't want to argue with Dmo Xian on this sentence as she quickly took out the azure aqua light chain and raised it up, waving it in front of Dmo Xian. I've already obtained the 4th azure aqua god relic. You say the 5th god relic. Where is it? Dmo Xian's hand, which was clasped around her waist, suddenly tightened. Chapter 46-64. Yi Qingluo was shocked and let go of the azure aqua light chain. What's wrong? There's something on it. Dmo Xian released her waist, as his eyes congealed as he looked at the azure aqua light chain in his palm, as he frowned slightly. This azure aqua light chain has already been contaminated by the profound yin qi of the Nether Palace. Pollution? Yi Qingluo was stunned. No wonder she felt that there was something wrong with the flowing light on the azure water light chain. But he couldn't tell what was wrong. After all, it was her first time seeing the azure aqua light chain's true form. Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased slightly as her long and narrow eyes squinted. No wonder. Back then it was too easy for me to get the azure aqua light chain. That Grand Elder was rather annoyed that Ren Jianming was a waste, but he had no intention to snatch it away. As it turned out, the azure aqua light chain was a bait from the start. Bait to get her hooked. First, he used the azure water light chain to lure her to the old city. It would be great if Ren Jianming could deal with her. If Ren Jianming fell into her hands, the azure aqua light chain would be taken away. In that case, he still had a backup plan. If she really formed a contract with the azure aqua light chain and fused with its power, the mysterious yin qi would also follow the power of her azure aqua light chain and enter her body. For her, the secluded darkness palace had really used all kinds of tricks. Yi Qingluo's lips twitched as her face revealed a cold smile. Fortunately, Dmo Xian was by her side. Otherwise, he might really fall for it. Yi Qingluo looked at Dmo Xian's tightly clenched palms and revealed a worried expression. Then, this thing won't affect you? It's nothing. Dmo Xian's expression sunk slightly. I'll go remove the profound yin qi from this first. Wait for me. Yi Qingluo nodded. I know you're very powerful, but don't force yourself. If you can't do it, we'll think of another way. There's no hurry to use the azure aqua light chain's power now. Dmo Xian went to settle the matter regarding the azure aqua light chain. Yi Qingluo asked Qi to bring her to where Old Man Song's body was. Old Man Song lay on the ice bed with his eyes closed, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. She slowly walked to the side of the ice bed and slowly sat down. Her slender, jade-like fingers lightly stroked the azure dew bracelet. She sighed softly and said, "Just one more artifact, and then you can become a real human. Last, don't worry." Old Song floated out from the azure dew bracelet. "Don't put all the responsibility on yourself. I promised you and Ren Jianming. Of course, I have to do it." Yi Qingluo laughed lightly. "But, after you become a real person, this azure dew bracelet, won't it have no protector? You will protect the azure dew bracelet, won't you?" Old Man Song floated to Yi Qingluo's side and sat down. The illusory body was as light as smoke. Yi Qingluo tilted her head and took a look at him. Of course. Old Man Song leaned his incorporeal head against the ice bed. Looking at the two identical faces on and under the ice bed, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed. "Lass, are you tired?" The person beside him suddenly asked softly. There was a hint of melancholy in his tone. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes suddenly trembled, the expression on her face slightly stiffened. This was a relative like her elder. In other people's eyes, they could only see her bright and beautiful. But only Old Man Song would care about whether she was tired or not. After a long while, her lips curled up and she laughed lightly. "Tired? How can I not be tired, but I'm already used to it." Chapter 46-65. Ever since she came to this world, she seemed to be constantly on the move. There were all sorts of things that came one after another. But so what about it? She had been reborn. In this strange world, she got to know everyone. She had the kinship, friendship and love that she didn't even dare to think about. What else was there to be discontented with? She had once heard of a saying, "The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility." Her background destined her to be extraordinary. Her ability destined her to take on many things that she was unable to take on. But she had to take on it. This was her destiny. She couldn't avoid it. "Lass." Old Man Song's voice was rather light. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes, stretched out her hand and gently held the hand of the person on the ice bed. As she said gently, "I will not let myself fall." Actually, what that old Wu said was very right. The people around her, all because of her, were schemed against by the secluded palace. And because of her, their lives were in danger so many times. If it wasn't because of her, Long Yunjian might not have such a fate. Everyone had the possibility to live peacefully and not be like this, wandering from place to place. But even if that was the case, so what about it? She had never regretted appearing in front of the brothers whom she knew, and would never regret becoming their brothers. Even if she had to do it all over again, she would still make the same choice. Because they were brothers. So no matter how tired she was, she would do her best to protect everyone whom she cared about. She would not fall. "You lass. Really silly." Old Man Song looked at the young lady, unable to describe the feeling in his heart. "To tell the truth, to let me become a real human, to leave you. I really can't bear to." He had been accompanying Yiqing Luo for a long period of time. He had witnessed all of Yiqing Luo's growth. He couldn't imagine what it would be like if he wasn't by Yiqing Luo's side. Yiqing Luo tilted her head to look at him, as her gaze was firm. "After you become a real human, then you will be able to help me better, isn't it? At least by then, if I suffer any grievances, I can still throw myself into your arms and cry. You should be thankful that you don't make others cry." Old Man Song's mouth was filled with disdain, but in his mind he unconsciously followed Yiqing Luo's words and imagined that kind of scene. "Indeed. I look forward to it." Old Man Song sighed softly, and used his spiritual body to rest on Yiqing Luo's shoulder, although he could not feel it. But this action, Yiqing Luo understood what he was trying to express. "Luo girl, you will definitely become someone stronger than Venerable Sovereign in the future." Old Man Song looked at her solemnly. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and looked at the hand on her shoulder. "Stronger than Xian. I'm afraid that even if my mother was alive, she wouldn't be a match for Xian. Her family's Xian was simply a cheat code. It was too heaven-defying. Until now, she still did not know Xian's true strength. Stronger than Xian? I'm not rich. I'll never be rich in this lifetime." Old Man Song simply smiled. "After the matters in the land have been settled, I will follow that map and search for the tomb of the Divine Emperor with you." At the mention of the Tianshu map, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes drooped slightly. After a while she nodded. "All right. The Divine Emperor's tomb. She definitely had to search for it. After all, the Divine Emperor's tomb was her mother's tomb, and her mother had placed the map to the Divine Emperor's tomb on her. Chapter 46-66. This must be his mother's intention. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes drooped slightly, as her lips curled up slightly. The arc between her brows was like a rippling beauty. Don't worry about me. No matter what, I won't be fighting alone, right? The girl's voice was clear and calm. It was as if he was just saying something natural. Old man Song gazed deeply at her for a long time. In the end, his eyes rippled with emotion as he slowly nodded. Yes. She would never fight alone. It didn't matter if he was in a spiritual body state or turn into a human. As an elder, he would stay by her side without any hesitation. The man and the spirit body looked at each other and smiled. He then leaned against the ice bed and closed his eyes, enjoying this rare moment of peace and tranquility. An hour later, this peace was broken by Ren Jianming, who walked in from outside. Ren Jianming seemed to be much more dejected. When he saw Yiqing Luo, his expression was slightly stunned, as though he had not expected Yiqing Luo to appear here. Why are you here? Ren Jianming took quick steps forward, took a look at Yiqing Luo, and then looked at old man Song who was lying on the ice bed. Yiqing Luo tilted her head. I'm going to the earth boundary tomorrow, so I specially came over to bid farewell to him. Ren Jianming responded indifferently. He didn't know what kind of attitude he should use to face Yiqing Luo, who went back on her words. But Yiqing Luo didn't stay for too long. He gave Ren Jianming a few reminders and gave him some first aid pills. Then he left the place. Just as he reached the corner, Ren Jianming suddenly said, I and old Song will wait for your return. This trip. Just how dangerous was the road ahead? No one knew. Perhaps he would die on the battlefield. That also meant that it was very likely that the old man would never be able to wake up. But he was unable to stop Yiqing Luo from doing what she wanted to do. He couldn't stop it. So he could only choose to believe in Yiqing Luo. He believed that she would definitely return safely. Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused slightly as she glanced sideways. Her long and narrow eyes seemed to be condensing a vivid light. She raised her pink lips and said firmly, Yes, I'll be back. Definitely. Night. Yiqing Luo paced around the room with an anxious expression. Chi-Chi lay on her shoulder and stroked her back with her furry tail. Dmo Xian had yet to return. Yiqing Luo believed in Dmo Xian's ability. However, in the face of the treacherous and cunning palace of Abyss Palace, all sorts of sinister tricks emerged one after another. She was very worried that the Deep Yin Qi wasn't the only pit on the Deep Aqua Light Chain. At that time, Dmo Xian had dragged the Azure Aqua Light Chain away. She also hadn't clearly seen the situation on the Azure Water Light Chain. What if there was another trap waiting for him after he dealt with the mysterious Yin Qi? As time went on, the night grew darker. The more she thought about it, the more uneasy she felt. Master, go to sleep first. When Dizun arrives, Chi-Chi will wake you up. Chi-Chi rubbed her head against her. Master still has to go to the land domain tomorrow. There will be another huge battle there. If you are not in good spirits, you will easily affect everyone. Yiqing Luo held Chi-Chi in her arms and sat on the bedside. But I can't sleep. There was no news of Dmo Xian at all. How could she possibly fall asleep peacefully? Chi-Chi raised its head. Its little tiger face was adorable. Does Master like Dizun very much? The little war pet didn't really understand the taste of love. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she placed her chin on Chi-Chi's furry little head. The emotions between her brows became much gentler. Chapter 46-67. Like. Very much. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with a faint smile. That was a unique gentle smile towards Dmo Xian. Like how Chi-Chi likes Master? Chi-Chi tilted her head. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly, yes. Chi-Chi made a few soft sounds and rubbed her head against Yiqing Luo's arms. Then Chi-Chi will accompany Master to wait for Overlord Master. Just as she was saying that, a figure suddenly flashed outside the window. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she immediately got up and greeted him. But the air was not filled with a familiar smell. The joyous expression on her face faded away bit by bit. Bloodbone Barbaric King walked in, bringing along a cold aura of the night. Yiqing Luo looked at his expressionless face and her heart thumped hard. You. Why are you here? Bloodbone Barbaric King walked slowly to the table and sat down. Following that, he placed something on the table, under the flickering candlelight. A brilliant necklace, sparkling with a strange glow. Yiqing Luo's body suddenly tensed up. Her eyes stared at the item on the table without blinking. Where is he? Yiqing Luo didn't touch the necklace on the table, but looked at Bloodbone Barbaric King with a sunken face. Bloodbone Barbaric King's fingertip touched that resounding necklace lightly. He has something on. What is it? He has time to send the Azure Aqua light chain to you, but has no time to look for me. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Her voice was very dry. Yes. That necklace. It was the Azure Aqua light chain that DMO Xian took away. But DMO Xian asked Bloodbone Barbaric King to send the Azure Aqua light chain back. Then, why didn't he come back? Bloodbone Barbaric King looked at her calmly. Don't let your imagination run wild, he's fine. If he's fine, why didn't he pass the Azure Aqua light chain to me personally? Is he injured because of the Azure Aqua light chain? Afraid that I'll be worried so he doesn't dare to come and see me? Yiqing Luo's pink lips were pursed tighter and tighter. Doesn't he know that under the situation where I don't know anything, I will only be more worried about him? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and strode to the table, holding the Azure Aqua light chain in one hand. Bring me to him. This god knew you would be like this. The Bloodbone Barbaric King was a little helpless. I've already said that I can't help him bring the things to you. You'll think too much, but he seems to have something very urgent, so he could only ask me to bring the things to you. What's the matter? Yiqing Luo clenched her fist. How would this god know what it is? The barbaric Bloodbone King didn't seem to care. I don't care about his matters. It's just that he asked me to pass this divine weapon that belonged to Fenggu to you. So I helped him run this errand. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and looked at the brilliant light chain on her fingertips. She rushed out of the room and was about to chase after him. The Bloodbone Barbaric King immediately chased after her and stopped her. We still have to go to the Earth Domain tomorrow. Where are you going? I want to see Xian. I can only be assured after I'm sure that he's all right. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as her charming eyes were filled with determination. Xian, that idiot, always endured everything just to protect her. He always refused to tell her anything. He's really all right. The Bloodbone Barbaric King pressed his hands on her shoulders. You don't believe this god? Yiqing Luo didn't say a word. The Bloodbone Barbaric King said each word seriously. At least, when he passed this necklace to this god, he was all right. At that time he came in a hurry and passed the necklace to this god. He only said one sentence. To let you go to the Earth Domain first. He would come later and left in a hurry. This book came from. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.